The second they stepped through, the world felt wrong. Nobody spoke at first, but all of them felt it in their bones. The pressure hit like they'd been shoved underwater without sinking. Breathing still worked, but every breath tasted heavier. The colors didn't sit right. The sky wasn't just dark, it looked like it was bleeding. Thick maroon clouds rolled across a red-lit ceiling, and the wind carried ash instead of air. Rhea stopped dead. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the ambient flow around them. Wait. Evelyn turned. What is it? Rhea's voice sharpened. This gate isn't stable anymore. Mana density just spiked. It was normal a second ago, and now it's insane. Silas cracked his knuckles like this was a joke. So it's juiced up? Cool. No, Rhea didn't blink. It shouldn't be this high. This isn't S rank anymore. Lucian stepped ahead, hands still in his coat pockets. He tilted his head up once, watched the sky like he was checking the weather, then gave a small nod. Yeah, he muttered. This is SSS. Silence slapped the group. Evelyn staggered, half a step back, blinking too fast. What? No. This was supposed to be your graduation rate. Cleared, monitored, locked at S. That can't just. Vin's brow pulled down hard. We weren't cleared for SSS. Rhea turned fully toward Lucian, eyes cutting into him. You knew. Lucian didn't answer. Evelyn's panic rushed up hard. No. S rank was already borderline. If this is SSS, we shouldn't even be standing here. We need to. She stopped mid-sentence. A low growl rolled through the dead forest. The ground vibrated. Dust trembled across stone. The sky dimmed deeper, like it was leaning closer to watch. Lucian breathed out slow. Panic later. Silas flashed a grin anyway. Guess we're doing this the hard way. Rhea smacked the back of his head. Hey, take it seriously, idiot. Lucian walked past them, eyes fixed forward. Focus. Survival's all that matters now. They moved together, pushing into the first zone. The trees here weren't trees anymore. They were skeletal things, twisted like they'd been burned and frozen at the same time. Shadows slid between trunks where no light existed. Mana pressed against their skin, thick enough to taste metallic and sharp. Then the forest answered. A rumble. Bark cracking. Heavy movement. For beasts burst out at once. Armored hounds, bigger than wolves, obsidian hides split with molten veins that pulsed like a heartbeat. Their eyes burned like signal flares. Their jaws unhinged far too wide. Rows of teeth made to shred bone. Not A rank. High at minimum, maybe low S. They hit fast. Silas went first, kinetic plates flaring across his arms. He drove a punch into the lead hound's jaw. It didn't drop. It skidded back, snapped forward with claws, and Silas barely blocked in time. Then hurled a bolt of dark matter into the second, slamming it to the ground. Evelyn raised a barrier to cover the flank. The third beast crashed into it, and the barrier spiderwebbed instantly. Rhea slipped in with a clean slash at a tendon point, but even that only slowed the creature for a breath. The fourth went straight for Lucian. It lunged, stopped midair. Lucian's fingers twitched once. The beast dropped like its strings had been cut, dead before it hit the ground. The others didn't even see that part. They were still fighting for space. Evelyn cried out as her barrier shattered and a claw raked her shoulder. Blood sprayed. Rhea dragged her back before the follow-up landed. Silas got flung into a rock hard enough to crack it, coughed blood, then stood again with that same stupid grin. Lucian moved through the mess like the fight wasn't real. No weapon, no words, just a step forward, a flick of his hand. One beast twisted wrong and collapsed. Another dropped like it had forgotten how to live. The last tried to bolt, but Lucian took a single step and the hound spiraled sideways mid-run like gravity turned off. 30 seconds. That was it. The forest went quiet again. The others stood there panting, staring at steaming corpses melting into the ash. Glowing monster cores rolled out of them like hot coals. All above a rank. Silas wiped blood from his mouth, eyes wide. Dude. Lucian didn't respond. He was already staring deeper into the trees, jaw set. This wasn't a real threat. Not yet. Outside the gate, Athena was pacing. The red glow around the portal wasn't fading. If anything, it was getting thicker. She cursed under her breath, yanked out a calm crystal, and pressed the rune. It took a few seconds. Dean's office. It's me, Athena said. Her voice was tight. Gate activated? Oh, it activated. She looked up at the portal, at the glyphs still burning too bright. But something changed. A pause. Changed how? The colors shifted. Another pause, sharper. To what? Red. Silence. That gate was scanned, the voice said carefully. Triple confirmed. High density, but stable at S-rank parameters. Then the parameters are lying. Athena snapped. It spiked the moment they entered. That gate is SSS now. SSS gates weren't just higher class. They were death biomes. Official ranks were 5 tiers. E through A, standard threats. Dangerous, but manageable. S rank, unstable disasters. Only elite squad survived. SSS, classified world-level threats. Living, mutating ecosystems that rarely got cleared. Most were sealed or collapsed with the help of national guilds. A single squad wasn't supposed to touch one, and Class 0 was inside it. Athena's grip tightened. Send reinforcements. Too risky. They're kids. They're Class 0. They're not ready. A pause. You train them, Athena. Athena stared at the portal, lips thin. I didn't train them for this. Inside the gate, Class 0 regrouped around the cores. Evelyn pressed a healing talisman to her shoulder. Her hands were steady, but her breathing wasn't. That wasn't a warm-up. That was an execution attempt. Vin checked her gauntlet, voice low. We were bait. Silas spat blood to the side and wiped his chin. Those things weren't wild. They moved like trained dogs. Rhea nodded slowly. They were waiting, and that mana spike, it wasn't natural. The gate adapted when we crossed. Almost like she trailed off. Lucian looked at her, like someone wanted us dead. Rhea met his eyes. Yeah. Lucian exhaled, slow. This place wasn't just hostile. It was aware. All right, he said quietly. The others turned toward him. This gate is worse than expected. We move like we're being hunted because we are. No side talk. No casual pacing. From now on, every shadow is a threat, and every tree could bleed. They nodded grim now. Lucian picked up one of the cores, rolled it in his palm. Still warm. Let's go. And they moved. Deeper into the twisted forest. Deeper into something that didn't feel like a raid anymore. More like hell with a door that had already locked behind them. They pushed deeper at a hard pace, cutting through tangled roots and fog-thick trunks while the shadows around them whispered like they had teeth. Sometimes those shadows did have eyes. You'd catch a blink where there shouldn't be one, then it was gone. The forest got stranger the farther in. Some trees rose and felt like they were breathing. Some oozed dark sap that looked too much like blood. And the sky never shifted. That same bruised red twilight hung above them like a ceiling, frozen in place, like time had stopped just to watch them bleed. They barely spoke now. The first wave had burned off the nerves, the jokes, even the panic. This wasn't a raid anymore. This was staying alive. Lucian finally called a halt after the 5th fight. The monsters were learning. They weren't charging blindly. They were coordinating. The last group had tried to box them in. Winged serpents slicing down from above, while 2 burrowers hit from underneath. Rhea had dodged a spine by a hair. Silas was bleeding again. Evelyn's barriers were eating her mana twice as fast just to keep them standing. Lucian stared into the warped tree line. They weren't getting anywhere. This gate wasn't normal. He could feel it in the way the world bent. The horizon kept shifting, the paths repeating, the angles wrong like the forest was folding them back into itself. Shit, he muttered. Rhea looked over, breath sharp in her chest. What? Lucian didn't answer right away. He tilted his head up, closed his eyes, and reached into the pressure hanging in the air. It wasn't just mana. It was a pulse. Alive. Not a gate. A dungeon. Worse than that. An endless dungeon. A sealed realm feeding on intruders. Drinking their struggle, their energy, their fear. A living biome designed to grind squads down until there was nothing left. It wouldn't let them walk out. Not unless they broke its heart. Lucian opened his eyes. This place doesn't end. They stared at him. We're in a loop. A dungeon cycle. It'll keep spawning until we die, or we destroy the core. Silas wiped blood from his lip. So, where's the core? Lucian exhaled once, slow. I don't know. Yet. Rhea glanced at the others, then down at her hands. We can't keep this pace. Evelyn's running dry. Vin's out of clean cooldowns. Silas is pushing past his limits. Lucian didn't argue. He looked at the cores they'd collected so far, then opened his system storage and pulled out another cache. Zenith Week rewards. Name Beast cores. Elite kills. A few high S-tier cores he'd stashed without thinking. He dropped the pouch onto the ground. Cores clattered across dirt and stone, glowing like embers, pulsing with raw mana. Take them, Lucian said. Everyone froze. Evelyn shook her head. Lucian. No, his voice cut through her. I'm not asking. Take them. Silas started to speak, but Rhea lifted a hand to stop him. Lucian kept going. You level up now. Break through. S rank. We're close. That's our only chance. Vin's voice came quiet and flat. And you? Lucian turned toward her. His aura didn't flare. His eyes didn't glow. But something heavy rolled off him anyway, like the air itself bent to make room. I'll hold him off. Rhea's throat went dry. Alone. He nodded once. Lucian. Evelyn tried again. But he was already drawing a weapon from his system. It didn't appear like normal gear. It unfolded. The air rippled, and the idea of a blade took shape. First a shimmer, then solidity. A black-forged longsword traced with thin crimson veins along the edge. The metal didn't shine. It swallowed light, and the shape shifted subtly with every heartbeat, as if the weapon was waiting for him to decide what kind of death it wanted to be. Lucian stepped forward. The earth behind him cracked under the pressure of his presence. Form a circle, he said without looking back. Absorb the cores. Don't stop until I tell you. The next wave was already coming. He could hear it in the distance. The screeches, the pounding limbs, the hungry drag of bodies through dead brush. Rhea nodded first and reached for the cores. Vin sat cross-legged, eyes closing as she began to sink. Breathing slow, steady. Silas groaned, but dropped into position. Evelyn clutched a core in both hands, trying not to shake. Lucian walked out to meet the tide. The trees split. The horde poured in. Winged things. Crawlers. Armor-plated horrors. Every one of them at least A rank, and some far worse. Lucian didn't wait for them to close in. He vanished. Fold step. One blink, and he was on the first beast, cutting it clean in half mid-leap. The sword adjusted with emotion, bending like a whip, then snapping back into shape. The strike left no spray, no drama. Just a severed shadow that hadn't realized it was dead yet. Another monster lunged. Lucian ducked under a blade tail, spun, and let the weapon flow into a chain whip. The black lash cracked across a throat, then ripped upward through two more bodies in a single rising arc. He moved like smoke. Where he went, monsters collapsed. 10, 20, 30. The battlefield started turning into a carpet of glowing cores. Behind him, the circle began to change. Rhea's mana system expanded in a sharp surge. Sparks jumped along her skin as she clenched her fists hard enough to crack the dirt. Vin's eyes opened, darker than before, violet rings forming in the black like a target locking in. Silas gritted his teeth as light burst from his chest, bones rattling as his body evolved under the pressure. Evelyn lifted an inch off the ground, the air around her threading with silver currents that danced like living wire. They weren't just recovering. They were breaking through, and Lucian didn't slow down. A crystal-armored brute crashed forward, claws down. Lucian parried. The blade thickened mid-swing into a massive axe and shattered the armor. A heartbeat later, the axe narrowed into a spear and punched straight through the core. A winged flame breather dived, jaws glowing. Lucian blinked above it, and the weapon became a hammer in his hands. He drove it down once. The skull caved in like wet stone. Blood, dust, manalite. The system kept pinging in the back of his head. He ignored it. No time, no breaks. The gate didn't care about fairness. It just kept sending death. And still, Lucian didn't step back. The glow behind him grew brighter, heavier, until even the ground trembled under the overload of rising power. Lucian breathed out. The next wave hesitated for a fraction, confused. He didn't look human now. His eyes held a faint red edge. His coat moved like shadow instead of cloth. The blade in his hand had stopped shifting. It had chosen its final form. A long sword again, wide cord, runes crawling along it, pulsing with spatial weight. It felt less like steel and more like a rule the world had been forced to accept. Lucian planted 1 foot forward, raised the sword, and faced the next swarm. Alone, but not fragile. And behind him, the people he trusted most were finally rising to meet his level.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
The air warped, not just with heat, not just with pressure. Reality itself bent around Lucian. The monsters hesitated, some stepping back instinctively. They could understand what changed, but their instincts screamed. Something was wrong, very wrong. Lucian rolled his shoulders once. The blade pulsed in his hand. No longer a weapon made of metal. It was meaning, a concept made solid, a command stitched into reality. Conceptual dominion, spatial sovereignty. All space bends to the wielder's will. Lucian raised his hand. The world around him shifted. The forest, the twisted trees, the blood-colored sky, all of it folded inward for a second like a crumpled page, then snapped back. In that instant, 10 of the frontmost monsters were crushed without warning. Not slashed, not pierced, just compressed, folded into a single point of space and erased. The rest screamed. Lucian walked. Each step he took didn't land on dirt. It chose where to land. Sometimes forward, sometimes above, sometimes sideways onto air itself. Space no longer applied to him the way it did to them. A winged serpent dove at him from the right, its body wide enough to coil a small house. Lucian didn't turn. He cut space itself. The serpent vanished mid-flight. The air behind it bent and collapsed like someone had sliced a curtain. The others roared and charged. Dozens of them. A whole front of chittering, snarling beasts, black exoskeletons gleaming, claws glowing, eyes flashing in the blood-red light. Lucian raised his free hand this time. Chronodisjunction, area reversal. A pulse radiated outward. The monsters charging slowed to a crawl. Some froze. Some staggered, their legs locked mid-sprint, their wings dragging like broken paper. Lucian blurred forward. He didn't slash. He erased. Each swing didn't just cut bodies. It cut through space and time together. Limbs didn't bleed. Heads didn't fall. They simply weren't there anymore. A titan beast leapt from the rear. A centipede tank hybrid, at least 30 meters long, its body plated with obsidian, 6 scythe limbs whirring. Lucian glanced at it. Fold step. He disappeared, reappearing directly above it. Mid-air, he twisted his blade once. Spatial anchor, gravity point. A symbol formed beneath him, white and violet, glowing with raw pressure. The centipede screeched as it was yanked upward into the sky, then slammed into the ground hard enough to crack the forest for miles. Lucian followed through with a single downward strike. His blade pierced the air, and then the earth, and then the core of the beast itself. Boom! A wave of light exploded as the monster shattered into mana particles. Lucian stood still as the dust cleared, coat fluttering in the aftershock. Behind him, the others were glowing bright now. Rhea's aura had turned pure gold, her eyes white-hot. Fists wrapped in condensed mana, knuckles radiating shockwaves just by clenching. Silas' arms looked reinforced, almost armored, veins glowing, his entire frame taller, denser. Evelyn's silver threads now wrapped her like a cocoon, her eyes glowing with layered sigils. Vin's shadow expanded into a pool behind her, her robes burning with violet flame, her aura stretching like a forgotten void. They were ready, but Lucian wasn't done, because the core beast was finally coming. The trees warped ahead, bent, collapsed. Something massive slithered between them. a body that looked like it was made of stitched bone and molten mirrors. Faces screamed in the crevices of its skin. Wings unfolded, wings made of space itself, jagged and broken like shattered portals. Its head rose, a mass of tendrils and horns, with no eyes, only a gaping mouth that sucked light into it. Lucian didn't blink. "Found it," he said quietly. "Conceptual dominion, absolute command. Fold reality." The ground beneath the core beast flipped inside out. For a second, it looked like it was falling into a hole, but the hole was made of inside, of the forest itself. A pocket dimension stitched together by Lucian's will. The beast roared, an echo that shook the world. Lucian flew forward. No wings, no lift, just warped air and a straight path. The beast swung a limb, a razor-thin claw of space tier. Lucian phased through it. Phase drift. The blade in his hand locked into its final form. A long sword with a single black line running down the center, pulsing like a heartbeat. He slashed once, and carved a line through the world. The core beast split down the middle, but held together. Regenerating. Roaring. "Of course," Lucian muttered. "A conceptual core. Not physical. Not something he could just kill with brute force." Which meant he needed to rewrite it. He closed his eyes, took one slow breath, and stepped forward. Dominion override. Conceptual rewrite. Core equals vulnerable. The world shuddered. Every monster nearby twitched violently. The core beast screamed. Lucian opened his eyes again. "Now, die." He moved one last time. Faster than fold step. Faster than sound. His blade cut down through the concept of resistance. The core beast screamed, then cracked literally. Like glass. Its massive body crumbled into reflective shards, each piece screaming before turning to ash. The ground rumbled. Then quiet. Lucian stood in the silence. His body trembled slightly, more from the afterburn than pain. His systems were running hot. Blood ran down his fingers from strain, but he didn't fall. Behind him, Rhea stood up first. "It's over?" she asked. Lucian turned slightly. "No." Vin rose next. "There's more." Lucian nodded. That was the core beast, but not the dungeon core. He pointed to the forest. It was fading, trees dissolving into fog, roots vanishing. At the center, where the core beast had first emerged, a staircase had appeared. Going down. Deeper. "No way," Silas muttered. Evelyn swallowed. "This dungeon doesn't end." Lucian sheathed his blade. "We're not done." His team gathered around him, wounded, exhausted, but alive. Rhea cracked her knuckles. "Then we finish it." Lucian didn't smile, but the glint in his eyes said enough. He turned toward the stairs and led the way down. The stairs creaked beneath their steps, not with age, but with pressure, like the dungeon was shifting again, coiling inward. Watching them, Lucian walked at the front, eyes forward. His fingers were still stained with dried blood, but his grip on the hilt was steady. He didn't speak, not because there was nothing to say. He was just trying to process what he saw. A screen hovered quietly in front of him. He didn't summon it. It came up on its own the moment they crossed the last broken glyph at the top of the stairs. Not his stats. Theirs. His eyes scanned the first one. Reyes Selim. Title: Embodiment of Intellect. Rank S. Telepathy X. Enhanced Intellect X. Neural Overclock. Passive. Her brain now runs twice as fast, processing threats in real time with zero delay. Tactical Sync. Links with nearby allies' thought signatures, allowing silent coordination. Data Recall. Retains and recalls every combat experience she's ever seen with perfect clarity. Lucian's brow twitched. He swiped to the next. Vin Thorn. Title: Embodiment of Magic. Rank S. Magic Manipulation X. Arcane Veil. Makes her mana completely undetectable, even to magical sensors. Flux Weave. Allows her to alter any spell mid-cast, adjusting power, shape, or affinity. Void Familiar. Summons a formless entity born of her mana to assist in battle or support. Soul Burn. Converts her life force directly into raw mana, temporarily amplifying all spells by 300%. Lucian's eyes narrowed. It wasn't a fluke. These weren't normal skills. These were evolved truths about who they were. He moved to the third, Silas Selim. Title, Embodiment of Strength. Rank S. Enhanced Condition X. Titan Muscle. Passive. Boosts all physical attributes far beyond S rank. Break Field. Each attack creates a concussive shockwave, capable of cracking barriers. Unyielding Drive. While active, immune to stun, knockback, and fatigue. Core Lock. Can root himself to any terrain, becoming an immovable force. Lucian paused for a long moment, then slowly tapped to the fourth screen. Evelyn Marin. Title, The Copycat. Rank S. Infinite Replication, XXX. Phantom Link. Copies any spell or skill she sees and stores it. Mirror Ghost. Creates a temporary energy clone to use a stored ability. Adapted Memory. Each copy becomes stronger the more it's used. Limit Shatter. Removes cooldowns briefly for any replicated power. He stared at the rank. XXX. But something else kept tugging at him. It wasn't Evelyn's ability. It was the title's embodiment. Not just strong, not just gifted. Living concepts. He closed the screen and walked on. The path was narrow now, twisting slightly like the staircase was being reshaped while they walked. Stone began shifting into metal. Cracks in the wall revealed veins of pulsing mana. But Lucian barely noticed. His mind was racing behind that dead expression. Rhea, embodiment of intellect. The ability to not just think fast, but to become thought itself. Everything about her made sense now. She always read faster, spoke clearer, predicted patterns before anyone else. Even her fighting style, strategic, methodical, surgical. Her evolution wasn't sudden. It was who she was, refined into truth. Vin, embodiment of magic. Magic didn't obey her. It reflected her. Her spells didn't break rules. They rewrote them. The way her shadow moved like liquid magic. The way her eyes burned not with power, but with understanding. Like she saw what mana wanted to be before it became anything. Silas, embodiment of strength. Not brute force. Not just muscle. Weight. His presence alone felt like it anchored the team to the world. Every time he stepped forward, everything behind him felt safer. He didn't just hit hard. He was power. And Evelyn. Lucian exhaled through his nose. She wasn't an embodiment, just a copycat, which explained a lot. Her ability, infinite replication, was originally his. In another life, another path, and yet she'd awakened it. Not because she was tied to his origin, but because she was close enough when he came back. She just got lucky. Lucian clenched his fist slightly. Kale, he whispered, but only in his mind. I'm here. Why only those three? He asked calmly. Why did they awaken embodiments? The system replied without hesitation. They are bound to your origin thread. The act of regression disrupted the weave of fate around you and pulled specific souls closer. Not random ones, fated ones. Lucian frowned. So Rhea, Silas, and Vin. Each represents a fundamental part of your design. Intellect, magic, and strength. They're not just allies. They're stabilizers. Archetypes tied to you across timelines. And Evelyn, she's outside that weave. Not irrelevant, but unlinked. Her awakening was caused by resonance. She was simply near enough to absorb a piece of your essence. Nothing more. Lucian looked ahead. Rhea was humming softly under her breath, stretching her shoulders as they walked. Her eyes scanned every detail. Stone grooves, light flickers, rhythm patterns on the wall. Silas walked with heavy, steady steps behind her, casually dragging the wrecked remains of spiked gauntlet across the wall like it was paper. Vin floated slightly. Her feet barely touched the ground, shadow magic trailing behind her like oil mist. The violet rings in her eyes hadn't faded since the last fight. And Evelyn, she walked a little behind him, focused. But Lucian saw the truth now. She wasn't tied to him. She just followed him. The silence broke for a moment when Rhea spoke up, her voice calm. Another threshold up ahead. I feel mana distortion. Probably a chamber. Lucian didn't answer. He just walked. The next room opened slowly, the door peeling back like layers of time, revealing a chamber of pure white stone, cracked, ancient, humming. But even as they entered, his mind stayed elsewhere. 3 embodiments, all bound to him, not by choice, by design. He didn't tell them. He wouldn't. This was his burden to carry, and he'd carry it all the way to the end. The gate hadn't moved in hours. It just stood there, silent, twisted, sealed tight with flickering glyphs that bled energy like wounds. Not a normal gate, not even a high-tier one. This was something else entirely. Athena stood a few feet from the boundary line, arms crossed, face unreadable as always. Her long coat fluttered in the chilled wind coming off the portal's distortion. The earth around it was cracked, the trees leaning slightly inward like gravity itself had shifted. Behind her, members from multiple academy teams were already deployed, scanners out, artifact readers running, enchantments layered like lace across the perimeter. Nothing worked. Not brute force, not spell logic, not divine keys. They tried. She tried. Still nothing. No signal came out from inside. No trace of the students who entered. Not even mana feedback. It was like the gate had swallowed them whole. Still no response. One of the lead scouts said, holding up a dim device. It's rejecting all interference. And it's not just sealed. It's layered, like multiple gates stacked into one. Athena didn't respond. Her eyes remained fixed on the flickering portal, mind calculating in silence. "Do we call on the dean again?" another asked. "I already did," she replied flatly. "He's trying to trace the signature from the other side. No luck yet." The wind shifted, and then a sleek black car pulled up with a hiss of mana-charged wheels. Athena turned her head slowly, recognizing the emblem on the side before the door even opened. Marin family crest. Her shoulders tensed. Lady Marin stepped out. No fanfare, no guards, just presence, cold and sharp like winter steel. The moment she saw the gate, she didn't even wait for protocol. "What is this?" Lady Marin snapped, heels clicking as she stormed toward Athena. "Where's my granddaughter?" Athena kept her tone even. Inside, Lady Marin's eyes flared with glowing sigils. And why is she inside a sealed SSS-rank gate with no escort? Athena stayed still. It wasn't classified SSS until after it locked. It was unstable. Lucian entered first. Lucian? Lucian Black? The boy with the broken data? Athena's jaw twitched slightly. "He's not broken. You let my granddaughter follow him into a collapsing gate." It was Evelyn's decision. Lady Marin's aura cracked the dirt under her shoes. "You let her make that decision." Athena sighed, lifting one hand. "Lady Marin, please." "No." No calm tone. No composed excuses. "I want that gate open now. I want Evelyn out. And I want the fool who let this happen expelled." "Enough." Athena's voice dropped low. Quiet but sharp. The noblewoman blinked, caught off guard by the shift. Athena stepped forward. "I'm doing everything I can. The dean is involved. The best trackers and artificers are deployed. You shouting doesn't crack that gate any faster." For a moment, Lady Marin stared like she was about to unleash hell. Then another car pulled up behind them. Black again, but not Marin Black. "Seal him." Athena's heart sank just a little more. Of course. The door opened, and a trio of Sealam delegates stepped out. Robed, formal, faces stone-carved and cold as frost. "Lady Athena," the eldest one said without greeting, "where are the Sealam twins?" "Inside the gate," she replied quickly. "And you allowed this?" another asked, voice sharp. Athena glanced sideways. No one allowed anything. The gate altered after entry. They were already inside when it sealed. "You should have known better. You should have treated them better," she almost said, but didn't. Her jaw locked instead. The eldest Sealam delegate took a step forward. "We demand you do something now. Our family. They're your family now," Athena said before she could stop herself. All 3 turned to her. She met their eyes. Cold. Unflinching. "If you care so much, where were you when Silas broke his arm during training and nobody came to check? Where were you when Rhea went 4 months on basic rations because your branch funding never arrived?" Silence. Tension thickened around them. Athena exhaled through her nose. "They're not tools. They're not currency. They're people. If you want to help now, wait and let me do my job." Another spike of mana flared across the field. A third car. Great. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. The door slammed before the engine fully powered down, and a sharp, echoing voice cut the wind like a blade. "Where's my little brother?" "Lucy." "Of course." Athena finally turned. Lucy Black stormed across the field in red boots, flames sparking faintly around her shoulders even though she wasn't casting. Her expression was pure fire. Red jacket, dark gloves, hair tied up in a rough bun. The infamous Blaze Queen. The academy team, near the gate, all subtly backed up. "Lucy, wait," Athena started. "No," Lucy said, pointing. "Tell me where the hell Lucian is. Tell me who the idiot was that let him go into that death trap without backup." Athena lifted a hand again. "He went in on his own. We didn't assign him. He's a kid," Lucy barked. Athena gave her a look. "You awakened at 13 and burned down a mountain. Don't start." Lucy paused, scowled harder, but didn't argue. Athena kept going. He was already inside before the gate sealed. Evelyn went after him. The others followed. Lucy's jaw locked. "And now it's sealed." "Yes. So what's the plan?" Athena hesitated. "We wait." Lucy flinched like she'd been slapped. "Wait. We try everything," Athena said calmly. "From this side. From the other. We scan for shifts, test external mana pulses, rotate elemental sinks. But the truth is, this gate doesn't want to be opened. Not until whatever's inside is done." Lucy clenched her fists. Heat shimmered around her. Athena raised her hand. "Don't. I know that look. I'll melt the damn thing. You'll destroy it. And everything inside." Lucy didn't answer. The field fell quiet again. Behind them, the gate hummed calm, silent, untouchable. Athena ran a hand through her hair and finally let out the sigh she'd been holding for over 2 hours. Lady Marin, Selim delegates, now Lucy, all breathing down her neck. And her best team? Gone. Trapped behind a gate that ignored every rule. She muttered under breath. What the hell is Lucian even doing in there? No one answered, and the gate didn't care. The chamber was wide, too wide. Lucian's boots stepped onto the pale stone floor, eyes scanning slowly. The walls curved into each other like a cracked sphere, edges flickering faintly with what looked like frozen lightning trapped in glass. The deeper they went, the heavier the air got. Not hot, not cold, just thick, like the dungeon was aware of them now. The others followed behind him, quiet, focused. They didn't talk much anymore. No jokes, no tension, just that silent readiness. Lucian stopped near the center and turned. His voice was low but clear. "Rhea, scan the layout." Rhea nodded once. Her golden eyes flickered with faint rings of light. Her mind stretched out far, further than it ever could before. She didn't even have to close her eyes. Her voice echoed in their minds next. Not words, images. A mental projection. A full map of the dungeon appeared in their shared consciousness. Hallways. Layers. Empty zones. Trap segments. Loops. At the far end, a sealed chamber pulsing with dense mana. "That's it," she said, speaking out loud now. "That's the core. But it's buried under 5 mana pillars in a cloaking field." Silas raised a brow. "What do we get to it?" Rhea smirked slightly. "Already working on it." Lucian folded his arms and let her work. He didn't rush her. She was faster now. Sharper. Rhea blinked once. "There's a back route. Twisted corridor behind a dead-end wall. It bypasses the main corridor traps and leads straight into the core's chamber." "How much resistance?" Vin asked quietly. 4 monster packs," Rhea replied. "Maybe 5 if we make noise." Lucian nodded. "Then we move quiet." Silas cracked his knuckles. "No noise." "Got it." Evelyn tilted her head at Lucian. "What about you?" Lucian lowered his gaze. "I'm low on mana." They all looked at him. He didn't blink. "I'll hang back and recover. I've used too many skills. I'll catch up when I can." Rhea opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, then stopped. If Lucian said he was low, then he was. That was enough. He turned to the wall. "I'll wait here. Vin, you lead with Rhea. Silas holds the front line. Evelyn covers the rear." Vin gave a single nod and moved first. Rhea walked beside her, head slightly tilted as if listening to an invisible pulse. Evelyn followed, her silver threads already shimmering faintly around her wrists. Silas brought up the front, eyes steady movements heavier than before. Lucian stood in silence and watched them go. Only when they were a few steps ahead did he let the lies settle on his tongue like ash. He wasn't low on mana. He wasn't tired. He was giving them space. They needed this. Not the danger. He'd step in if it got too much, but the weight. The pressure of a real fight. A real decision. A mission without him as the fail-safe. If there were going to be hunters someday, real hunters, they needed to learn what it felt like to lead. To move. To think. They needed the scars. Lucian closed his eyes and leaned lightly against the wall. He didn't even summon a barrier. He just listened. Their footsteps faded, and the gate shifted again, softly. Ahead, the group moved down a tight passage that curved like a serpent, the walls vibrating softly under their steps. Pale blue veins pulsed under the surface like the dungeon was alive and breathing. "Trap ahead," Rhea whispered, already stepping back. Mana glyph. Defensive. Area burst. Silas didn't wait. He took 2 steps forward and slammed his boot into the ground. The shockwave snapped the glyph open mid-charge, disrupting its core before it could fully form. Clean. Precise. Evelyn glanced at him. Okay, that was kind of hot. He didn't answer, but the smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. Vin slowed as they reached a cross-section, her fingers brushing the air. Hold. They stopped. She pointed. Magic distortion. Right side. Hostile pack. Rhea nodded. Then we take the left. The group slipped down the new corridor clean. Silent. 2 monster encounters later, they reached the narrow slope that led toward the core. The air here buzzed like a storm waiting to break. Silas wiped blood from his knuckles. Something's ahead. Rhea tensed. I feel it too. Lucian caught up by then, walking silently behind them. Still low, he said casually when they turned. Nobody questioned it. They moved together now, Rhea scanning every glyph, Vin dismantling each magical trap with a flick of her fingers, Evelyn marking anchor points for fallback, Silas anchoring the center with pure mass. Then, the air changed. The tunnel opened into a large antechamber. The walls here were cracked with age, symbols drawn in patterns they didn't understand, pulsing with red-orange heat like dying stars. And there, across the room, stood the core. It wasn't floating. It wasn't protected by glass or barrier. It throbbed in place. A bleeding crystal, radiating pure dungeon mana in surges that made their skin crawl. But that wasn't what stopped them. It was what stood in front of it. A shape. A thing. Not fully visible. Just present. Lucian's eyes locked on it. Then his mind froze. A wave of pressure rolled out from the creature. Not mana. Not magic. Something worse. It drenched the room in silence. Silas stepped back unconsciously. Rhea clenched her fists. Evelyn's threads fluttered like they were trembling. Even Vin, always composed, took a sharp breath and whispered barely audible. Jesus Christ. The room stood still, and the monster hadn't even moved yet. The academy. Dean Garros sat behind his desk, eyes locked on the silent projection floating in front of him. The data flickered, unchanged, unyielding. The gate had registered as S rank. Clean, stable, nothing out of the ordinary. And then it wasn't. Now it was sealed, twisted, dead silent. No one in, no one out, not even a trace of mana drift. That didn't happen on its own, not unless someone forced it. Someone who could bend the system. Rewrite data. Warp classifications. Garros clenched his jaw. There was only one man he knew with the power and the ego to tamper with a gate when he felt threatened. A man who saw rising talents as a problem. Not potential, not future, just competition. A shadow passed by the doorway. Then a quiet voice. Brother. Aaron. The pressure kept rising. That thing didn't need to move. It was movement. From a moment they saw it, time felt slower, like the chamber had sunk underwater. And then it stepped forward, out of the shadows. 1 foot, then another. Massive, towering, coated in glistening black scale that shimmered with elemental charge. Each step cracked the floor beneath it, and from its shoulders rose 5 heads, each shaped like a twisted version of a dragon's crown. 5 necks, 5 heads, 5 colors. Flame, frost, lightning, stone, wind, An SSS-rank Hydra of the 5 major elements. Each head moved independently, eyes glowing, not with hunger, but awareness. It knew they were weak, and it liked that. Lucian's breath stilled. His body moved on instinct. Time froze. Everything stopped. Air, sound, light. Rhea's hair froze mid-motion. Vin's lips still parted in shock. Evelyn's threads were mid-flutter. Silas hadn't even blinked yet. But the Hydra? It turned slowly. One head, then 2, then all 5. Even in frozen time, it moved. Lucian's heart skipped. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered. His hand hovered near his blade. He could end this. Cut through space. Carve the core. Freeze time again. End it. But the others? They'd learn nothing. No teamwork. No pressure. No real combat. They needed this fight. They needed to feel what it meant to face something stronger. Lucian closed his eyes. "Kale," he said silently. "Listening. Is there anything I can give them? Something to help?" "Yes." Lucian tensed. That was fast, because they are embodiments, bound to you by origin thread. By extension, they qualify for system assistance. Lucian's eyes narrowed. "So I can give them gear?" "Exclusive gear sets, tailored to their embodiment traits. Purchasable." Lucian almost smiled. "And Evelyn? She's not an embodiment, but you can still provide assistance. Recommend unlocking true function of infinite replication." Lucian raised his hand. A system screen slid open in front of him. The store flickered into view. 3 glowing tabs. Embodiment set. Intellect, Rhea Selim. Embodiment set. Magic, Vin Thorn. Embodiment set. Strength, Silas Selim. He tapped the first one. Mind Veil Circlet. Enhances neural processing. Amplifies predictive combat reactions by 400%. Thought Weave Gloves. Allows instantaneous mental spell weaving. Touch-based tactical link. Synapse Boots. Enhances speed of decision-based movements. Can redirect momentum in midair. Cortex Lens. Visual interface that highlights enemy weak points and attack patterns in real time. He purchased it. Light burst from the screen. A silver cube formed in his palm, softly humming. Lucian smiled faintly, then opened the second tab. Astral Shawl generates a protective barrier from ambient mana. Can store spells for delayed use. Arcanite Rings channel and stabilize chaotic spells. Allows fusion casting. Void Binder Sash increases mana compression rate. Boosts spell impact by 300%. Nexus Pendant grants passive mana regeneration and spell memory enhancement. Another cube. This one, Violet Black. He didn't hesitate. Third tab. Titan Bracers. Reinforce physical strikes with gravity pulses. Can deflect magical impact. Groundshaker Boots. Anchor to any surface. Doubles momentum on impact. Juggernaut Plate. Increases durability. Converts incoming damage into strength for a short time. Core Drive Belt. Stabilizes physical output. Prevents internal backlash during power surges. A third cube. Red Hot. Lucian turned. Time resumed. He walked forward, steps calm despite the pressure. The others hadn't noticed time had stopped. Not yet, but they noticed the cubes. He stopped in front of Rhea and held the silver one out. "Take it." She stared. "What is?" "It's yours," he said. "Just open it." She reached forward. The cube cracked apart into light, swirling around her body before fusing into shape. The circlet slipped onto her head. The gloves wrapped her fingers. The boots clicked into place like they belonged there. Her eyes widened. "Lucian, where did you?" "I made them," he said simply. He turned to Vin. She stared at her violet black cube like it was whispering something. She didn't ask questions. She just accepted it. Light shimmered across her body as the shawl wrapped itself over her shoulders, the sash tying around her waist in a smooth motion. The rings blinked on her fingers one by one. Then Silas. Lucian handed him the third cube. Silas blinked. "You sure?" Lucian nodded once. "Use it well." The gear wrapped around him like liquid fire. The plate reinforced his chest, the bracers pulsed with weight, and the belt locked into place with a low hum. All 3 stood straighter, more complete, more themselves. Lucian turned to Evelyn last. She tilted her head. "Nothing for me?" Lucian paused, then stepped forward. No cube. He placed a single finger on her forehead. Her body shimmered. Silver lines of code danced briefly in her eyes. Her breath hitched. What was that? Lucian looked into her eyes. You've been using infinite replication like a trick. She flinched. It's not. His voice lowered. You can copy abilities. Permanently. You can merge them. Create new ones. You can clone yourself. But not just mimicry. Real clones. If you understand the ability deep enough, it's yours. Her lips parted. But Lucian's gaze didn't waver. He stepped even closer, lowering his voice. Not because he had to, but because the others didn't need to hear this part. You don't need a gift, Evelyn, he said quietly. You are the gift. Infinite replication isn't about watching and reacting. It's about understanding. If you can comprehend how a power works, why it works, you don't just mimic it. You own it. And once it's yours, he tapped her chest lightly. You can twist it, bend it, break it, remake it, stack it, combine it, multiply yourself, and run different powers in sync across your clones. That's not copying. Evelyn's hands trembled slightly. Then I've been limiting it. You've been playing it safe, Lucian said, which is fair. But now, he tilted his head toward the Hydra. Now isn't the time to hold back. Evelyn blinked fast, like her brain was catching up to a version of herself she hadn't seen before. And then, she smiled. Got it, she whispered. Lucian stepped back, satisfied. That's when Reyes spoke. All right, she said. Her tone had shifted, tighter, brighter, focused. Lucian turned. She was already scanning the Hydra again, eyes glowing faintly behind the newly formed cortex lens. Her circlet pulsed softly with every shift of the monster's weight. Her breath had leveled out, and her fingers tapped against her gloves in quick bursts, like keys on a console. We got 5 heads, she said, each tuned to one of the primary elements. That means they'll act independently, but defend collectively. Any direct assault will trigger a group retaliation unless we break their sync. Vin nodded once. How do we do that? We split aggro, Rhea replied instantly. 5 points. I'll mark them. The heads don't move as a group unless threatened all at once. If we rotate pressure and maintain split positions, they'll break formation. Silas cracked his neck. And when they do, Rhea's eyes flicked to Lucian. We aim for the base. Neck cluster. Weakest structural point. But it's only viable when the heads aren't sinking spells. Evelyn exhaled, her threads weaving into thin sigils across her forearms. I'll take flame and wind. I can clone one of me and split the attention. I've got lightning, Vin said calmly. It resonates with my type. Frost is mine, Reyes said. It's reactive, and I can predict it better than the others. Silas grinned. Guess that leaves me with stone. Lucian didn't say anything. He just watched. And this was why he waited. They weren't hesitating anymore. They weren't looking at him for permission. They were moving. Rhea's voice cut through the air again. Silas, when you anchor, make sure you don't stay in the same position too long. Once the stone head drops, the others will turn defensive. Vin, I need you to overload your spell impact to keep lightning's rhythm from syncing with wind. That'll give Evelyn enough time to tag the flame with her clone. Copy, Vin said. Evelyn tapped her forehead and smirked. Literally, Rhea turned to Lucian. Can you keep the main body distracted? Just its torso? Even if you don't attack, hold its focus. Lucian raised a brow. Thought I was low on mana. You're not, she said without missing a beat. He smiled. Fine. Rhea stepped forward, raising her hand. A pulse of light spread from her circlet, marking glowing blue symbols on the chamber floor. 5 points. Rotating angles. Movement anchors. She snapped her fingers. Positions. They moved. Silas stepped right. Evelyn sprinted left and flicked a hand. Another version of herself split from her shoulder in a shimmer of light. The clone stretched, flexed, and nodded at her before dashing the other direction. Vin's shawl whipped around her as she floated up slightly, hands already glowing with condensed mana. Her pendant lit up like a heartbeat. Rhea stayed low, her boots giving small bursts of redirected momentum as she took her spot. Her gloves pulsed with mental energy, her link syncing each of their movements like a silent thread. And Lucian? He walked forward, slowly, directly at the monster. The Hydra turned all 5 heads toward him. The wind had growled. The fire head snapped once, heat rippling off its breath. Lucian looked up, eyes half-lidded, then whispered, just loud enough for it to hear, "Look at me." And it did. The others moved as one, and the fight began. The moment Lucian said, "Look at me," the Hydra reacted. 5 heads locked on him with a silence that felt louder than a scream. Then, like a trigger had snapped, all 5 heads split in different directions. Boom! The wind head lunged at Evelyn's clone. The flame head launched a stream of searing fire across the floor, carving a line straight toward Vin. The lightning head twisted midair and cracked its neck once, then shot a bolt so fast it lit the chamber white. Frost spread from the ice head's mouth in a wide arc, forcing Rhea to backpedal. And the stone head slammed into the floor near Silas, sending debris and dust flying into the air like bombs. They had moved, so the team did too. Silas planted both boots hard into the ground, his new gear locking in with a thud. The stone head reared back to slam down again. He didn't dodge. He charged forward. His arms pulsed with red energy. The Titan bracers flared, and as the stone head descended, he punched upward. Crack! The shock wave tore through the ground. The head snapped back with a pained shriek, cracks forming across its chin. Then Silas blinked. His feet lifted off the ground. He wasn't jumping. He was floating. He looked down. Wait, I can. Then instinct took over. The juggernaut plate across his chest glowed, converting that damage he'd taken earlier into raw power. His hands ignited with condensed energy. He raised them, aimed at the recovering stone head. Let's test this. He fired. Twin beams of red-white energy blasted from his palms, slamming into the stone head mid-roar and sending it reeling back. Rhea was weaving through frost that could freeze bones in seconds, but she was already 3 moves ahead. The Cortex lens highlighted incoming paths, angles of freeze zones, delay in the head's breathing cycle. 2.3 seconds to inhale. She moved at 2.1. The Synapse boots burst with redirected energy, launching her into a side roll as the frost beam scorched past her left shoulder, missing her by a hair. She raised her right hand. A glow formed on her palm. Tactical sync activated. Now she saw the battlefield like it was mapped in her head. Everyone's movement, everyone's location, heat levels, magic pulses. Vin now. Overload left side. Vin didn't hesitate. She was floating just above ground, wrapped in her astral shawl. Her eyes glowed a deep violet as she raised both hands, Arcanite rings flashing as she began fusion casting. 2 spells at once, 1 in each hand. Left hand, compressed lightning. Right hand, arcane displacement. She slammed both together. The air warped around her. Then she let it loose. A fusion bolt ripped through the air, distorting space as it flew and electrocuting everything it passed near. It smashed into the lightning head just as it began to open its mouth, causing it to flinch and snarl in fury. It tried to charge another bolt. She vanished and reappeared directly above it. The nexus pendant around her neck surged with energy, letting her cast again. This time, pure mana. She dropped a sphere of compressed spell energy right on its skull. Boom! Evelyn was somewhere else entirely. Her clone was trading hits with the Windhead, drawing it further from the core. But the real Evelyn? She was glowing silver now, her body wrapped in lines of moving energy. She had stopped mid-run, knees bent, head down, arms out. I could do more, she whispered to herself. Her breath slowed. She went inward. She reached into the powers she had taken from others, not stolen, not mimicked, taken. An assassin's shadow-warping step, a monster's bone-hard armor, a flame user's combustion technique, a scout's kinetic transfer, a psion's short-range blink. She didn't just activate them. She fused them. Her skin pulsed as her body adapted to the rhythm. Each piece layered over the next, bound by understanding, not code. Evelyn's breath hitched. Then she smiled. She vanished. No flash, no sound, Just gone. And then, 3 versions of her reappeared. One behind the wind head, one above it, one at the side. They moved together. The real Evelyn slammed her palm into the beast's temple. The clone above dropped into a sweep kick of the jaw. The one at the side blasted a combustion trail across the beast's wing. The wind head screeched, twisting and spinning in confusion, unable to tell which was real. Evelyn blinked out again. Then all 4 versions were attacking from new angles. Back at the center, Lucian stood in front of the Hydra's main body. He hadn't drawn his blade yet. He didn't need to. The 5 heads were occupied. The torso was still watching him, waiting, like it knew he was the true threat. Lucian stepped forward, then stepped left, then right. The body twitched. So it responds to prediction path, he muttered. Good. That meant it had limits. He tilted his head toward the chaos around him. The battle was unhinged now. Unstable, but not uncontrolled. Rhea was shouting new orders through tactical sync. Silas was now midair, raining down beams like some war god. Vin was melting the lightning head's defense with spell fusion. Evelyn was blinking around like a blur of death. It was chaos. Coordinated chaos. Lucian cracked his neck. He still didn't move. Didn't attack. He didn't need to be the blade. Not now. He needed to be the weight holding the monster's attention. He exhaled slowly, and the Hydra's body took a step toward him. Across the chamber, Rhea's voice rang again. Silas, push the stone head toward the wall. Vin, reroute toward the core zone. Evelyn, by her window. Copy, Evelyn said, vanishing again. Silas flew in with a roar, both fists lighting up. Let's go. He slammed into the stone head mid-charge, spinning around and driving it backward with a shoulder bash reinforced by the ground shaker boots. Vin blinked twice, dashing between lightning arcs and redirecting her next spell to detonate behind the frost head, giving Rhea breathing room. Rhea was already sprinting forward, boots glowing, gloves sinking, brain 3 seconds ahead of the fight. Lucian, she called. 1 more second, he replied. The 5 heads, dazed, burned, slammed. Their movements were slower now. The sync was breaking. Rhea landed beside the core. She raised her hand. Now! Lucian turned fully, and for the first time, drew his blade. The space around the Hydra shattered. The heads looked back too late. Too slow. Lucian moved. 1 blur. 1 slash. 1 cut. And 1 word in a whisper. Collapse. The blade didn't hit the Hydra. It hit the moment between all 5 heads, where their sync still barely held. That moment broke, and so did the Hydra. 1 breath later, the monster screamed, and the entire chamber shook. Lucian stood in the silence that followed. The Hydra's scream faded. Its heads crashed to the floor one by one. Stone, fire, frost, wind, lightning, all twitching, all done. The body convulsed, then slumped like a puppet with its strings cut. A low groan came from the monster's core, deep in its chest, glowing faint green beneath its scales. But Lucian didn't look at it. He turned to the others, sheathing his blade with 1 smooth motion. His voice came out quiet, steady, like the weight of the battle hadn't even scratched him. Take care of the core, he said. I don't want it. Silas blinked. You sure? Lucian didn't answer right away. He glanced past them toward the far end of the chamber. The gate core was still floating there, pulsing, warping, a mess of twisting mana strands that shimmered with pale, red light. Unlike the monster, that thing was alive. It wasn't breathing, but it was aware, watching. I'll take care of that instead. Rhea stepped toward him. You think destroying the gate core will... Lucian nodded. It should collapse the entire gate. Evelyn frowned. And send us back? That's the idea. He didn't wait for approval. Didn't ask if they were ready. He just turned and walked. The ground was cracked beneath his boots, mana still unstable in the air. The further he stepped, the stronger the pull from the core. Not gravitational, just presence. Like it was daring him. Like it knew. Lucian stopped a few feet away from it. His hair shifted slightly in a breeze of loose energy swirling off the core's edges. Red light wrapped around his hands. And he whispered, collapse. He didn't use a skill. He didn't shout. He just reached out, 1 hand, and gripped the floating gate core like it was nothing more than a beating heart. A sound rang out. low, deep, metallic, and wet at the same time. Then the core cracked. A ripple burst through the entire gate chamber, and the world shook. The walls fractured. The air turned silver. The floor beneath their feet began breaking apart, dissolving into floating shards of light. The ceiling vanished. And then, so did everything else. Like a light blinked out. Outside, the gate hadn't moved in hours. It just stood there, twisted and silent, symbols crawling like veins across its surface. Cracks bled light slowly, like it was leaking time itself. Everyone had tried everything. Still nothing. Until now. Until cracks exploded across the gate's face. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. The runes on its surface pulsed once, violently, before breaking apart into golden particles. The structure folded inward, sucked into itself like a collapsing lung. Then, a shockwave of light. Not destructive. Not hot. Just bright. And then, silhouettes. 5. Lucian stepped out first. Dust clung to his shoulders. His shirt was torn slightly at the side. His hair was messy, and there was a faint scratch above his brow. But his eyes were steady. Behind him came Rhea, one hand still glowing with active mana, as if she hadn't fully powered down yet. Then Silas, covered in faint soot and bits of stone. Then Evelyn, her clone already gone, her breathing slow but stable. And finally Vin, floating just slightly, her eyes glowing faint violet. The field outside erupted in noise. The gate had opened. They were alive. The scouts were first to react, rushing forward with scanners and heal spells already forming on their gloves. Athena didn't move at first. Her eyes locked on Lucian, then on Evelyn, then back to Lucian. She walked up, her coat flapping lightly in the wind. No words. Not yet. Lady Marin was already moving, heels slamming the dirt as she stormed toward them, lips drawn tight. "Evelyn!" she barked, eyes wide. "You?" But Evelyn didn't let her finish. She raised one hand calmly, like she'd expected this. "I'm fine." Lady Marin looked like she wanted to argue. Scream. Collapse. Instead, she clenched her jaw and backed up a step. "You're not allowed to scare me like that again," she muttered. Evelyn nodded once, then turned her head. Her eyes met Lucian's for just a moment. He gave her a slight nod. She smiled. Then the Selim delegates arrived. "Silas," one of them called. He tensed slightly. Rhea drifted closer to him. "We're relieved you're safe," the eldest said, trying to sound warm. He wasn't. Rhea's fingers brushed Silas's wrist. He didn't respond to the delegate. Just said, "We're fine." The man tried again. "You should come with us. We have facilities." "We're staying," Rhea said. With Athena. The air tensed. Athena finally spoke, stepping beside Lucian. "They made their own choices," she said. "And they proved themselves." One of the delegates frowned. This gate was unregistered. Unstable. They weren't ready. Lucian finally looked at him. Calm. Empty. They were. The man opened his mouth, then stopped. Something in Lucian's eyes made him freeze. Not power. Just wait. Like Lucian had walked through something none of them would ever understand. Then came the final arrival. Lucy. She shoved past the scouts and nobles like they weren't even there. She walked right up to Lucian, grabbed his arm, checked his shoulder, scanned his face. "You good?" Lucian gave a slow blink. "Yeah." Lucy stepped back, then punched him in the arm. "Hard." "Idiot," she muttered, turning away quickly. Athena looked around at the group. The energy field was fading now. The portal gone. Just wind and grass and the smell of old magic in the air. She nodded once, then stepped forward and raised her voice so the whole field could hear. This wasn't a normal gate. It wasn't meant to be. Eyes turned to her. This was a test. A trap. Maybe both. But Class 0 survived it. Together. She turned to Lucian again. Then to Evelyn, Rhea, Silas, and Vin. "You're not students anymore," she said. "You've earned your graduation. No cheering. No dramatic music. Just silence." And then, Vin exhaled. Silas laughed under his breath. Rhea smiled, eyes half-lidded. Evelyn's shoulders finally relaxed. And Lucian? He just looked up at the sky. The sun was out now. The world was still turning. And somewhere behind his eyes, Something new had settled. A quiet shift. Not pride, not power, just clarity. The door closed behind him like a whisper, but the weight in the room doubled. Garros didn't look up right away. He already knew the voice. He knew the damn chill that always followed it. Run. His younger brother stepped forward slowly, hands in his coat pockets, sharp suit pristine like he hadn't done a single dirty thing in years. But Garros knew better. Aaron looked around the room briefly, taking in the floating displays, the locked-in readings, the sealed gate data. Then his eyes fell on Garros, who was still seated, back straight, fingers clenched on the edge of the desk. Garros finally looked at him, calm on the surface, but his eyes burned. You have something to do with it? Aaron smiled lightly, as if it was a dumb question. With what, dear brother? Garros stood, slowly, deliberately. His voice stayed low. The gate. It changed mid-operation. No one could get in or out. No signal. No mana echo. That doesn't happen unless someone forces it. Aaron raised a brow. And you think I would do something so reckless? You've done worse. That wiped the smirk off his face. Garros stepped around the desk, face close now, staring Aaron in the eyes. Why? Aaron didn't answer. Not right away. Then quietly, too calm. Because they scare me. Garros froze. What? Aaron stepped forward, voice hardening. Those kids of yours. That class you've been protecting. They're dangerous. They've grown too fast, too strong, and worst of all. He leaned in slightly, eyes cold. You've taught them to think for themselves. Garros said nothing. Aaron's tone sharpened. You always did have a soft spot for lost causes. Garros clenched his jaw. They're not lost. Aaron laughed once. It was cold. Hollow. Then you're blind. I saw at the moment they stepped into the Zenith Week last month. The way they moved. The way they looked at stronger hunters. Not with respect. Not with fear. With intent. They're learning. They're outgrowing the world. Garros. Aaron snapped, suddenly furious. Outgrowing me. Do you know what that means? Garros stared at him. It means the world finally has hope. It means I lose control. Aaron shouted, slamming his hand on the table beside them. The desk cracked. The floating screens blinked wildly. And you know how I feel about things I can't control. Garros didn't flinch. So you trap them in an SSS rank gate? Risk their lives? To make a point, Aaron's eyes narrowed. What I can't control, he said slowly, cannot live. Garros shoved it back with both hands. Not hard enough to hurt, but enough to show it. Aaron didn't move. Didn't even blink. You're insane, Garros breathed. No, Aaron said, brushing invisible dust from his collar. I'm realistic. You know what they'll become if left unchecked. You've seen the projections, the mana sync rates, the combat patterns. That girl's threads, the other one's mental field manipulation, and your favorite. Don't. Garros's voice cut through the air like a blade. Aaron tilted his head slightly. Still can't say their name. Huh? You stay away from them. Garros warned, voice shaking now. Not from fear, but fury. I'll let you be head of the Thorn family because I didn't want blood on my hands. But if you lay a finger on them... What, Garros? Aaron interrupted, stepping closer again. What will you do? Challenge me? Raise your voice in some council meeting? Give one of your idealistic speeches? Garros didn't speak, just stared. So Aaron kept going. You think being the dean of an academy makes you untouchable? That hiding in that title makes you noble? He smiled darkly. You walked away from power. From me. From everything we could have built together. And now you want to protect kids who would gladly slit your throat the moment you become irrelevant. They're nothing like you. They will be. Aaron leaned in again, voice dropping low. And when they become monsters, when they climb too high, I'll be there to drag them down. Garros stepped back. His face had changed. Not fear, not rage, just heartbreak. You were better than this. No, Aaron said softly. You hoped I was. There was silence. Heavy, bitter. Then Aaron turned, walking slowly toward the exit. But before he left, he paused at the door. You should prepare a statement, he said. When a gate collapses and they don't come back, the world's going to ask questions. They're not dead, Garros said, voice raw. You don't know that. I know you, Garros said sharply. And I know how far you'll go. You might kill a nation to protect your throne. But those kids? They'll survive it. They'll burn through it. Aaron smiled faintly, almost sad. That's what scares me most. He stepped out. The door closed behind him. Silence returned to the office. But Garros didn't sit, didn't move. He stared at the flickering gate report, still locked, still unreadable. His hand trembled slightly at his side. Lucian, he whispered under his breath. Then he looked down at the communicator embedded in his wristband. Still no signal. Still nothing from a gate. But his eyes, it didn't reflect doubt. They reflected one thing only. Time. He knew it was running out. And when it hit 0, when the gate cracked open, he'd be ready, either for a reunion or a war. The silence stretched for a long time. Garros hadn't moved from his spot. The flickering light of the sealed gate projection danced across his face, casting faint shadows beneath his tired eyes. He didn't blink, didn't speak. He was listening for anything. A ripple, a pulse, a signal. But nothing came, just static, until BZZT. His wristband vibrated once. He looked down slowly. The screen lit up, faint blue against his skin. Athena. He accepted the call without hesitation. Athena, he said, his voice low, held tight like a breath he couldn't afford to lose. Her voice came through instantly. Calm, firm, but behind it, a subtle relief that wasn't there the last time they spoke. They're out, she said. Garros blinked. What? They made it through. All of them. His breath caught. His hand clenched slightly. They're alive. Yes, Athena said. Garros sat down slowly, shoulders sagging, not from weakness but from the weight sliding off his back. He allowed a long breath. Thanked the stars. On the other end, Athena was silent for a moment. Then, softly, it was him, wasn't it? 2 weeks passed. The academy grounds felt calm again. The sky was clearer. The halls quieter. But underneath that stillness, something was different. Like the school itself was waiting. Most students had gone home after the incident, Class 0 included. But not all. The dorm door creaked open slowly. Rhea stepped inside first. Her boots made soft taps against the tile. She looked around the common room, hands stuffed in her coat pockets. Still looks the same, she muttered. Behind her, Silas came in, carrying a pack slung over one shoulder. He dropped it on the nearest couch with a grunt and glanced at the wall. The snacks are gone. So no, it doesn't. Rhea cracked a small smile. They didn't go home like the others. Neither of them really had one to go back to. Not one that felt like home anyway. So they stayed. Rested. Trained a bit. Talked less. Thought more. And now, the others were returning. They heard the footsteps before they saw her. Then stepped into the room without a word. Black, cloak brushing the floor, eyes half-lidded as always. She looked the same, almost too much the same. Rhea watched her carefully. You all right? She asked. Vin nodded, walking toward the window. Still in one piece. Silas raised an eyebrow. Can't say the same for the gate. That earned a faint smile from her. But Rhea didn't laugh. She was still watching her. Or more specifically, her hand. Hey, Vin, she said slowly. Your left hand. What's that? Vin stopped. Looked down at her palm. There, etched faintly across her skin like ink made of shadow light, was a symbol. It looked like a grimoire. A pentagram circled in delicate lines and cryptic runes that shimmered when the light hit it just right. This? Vin asked. It appeared the day after the gate. No idea what it is. Can anyone else see it? Rhea asked quickly. Vin's head tilted. No, you're the first. Rhea's eyes narrowed. Then she raised her own left hand. A mark pulsed softly there. A glowing, silver sigil shaped like a geometric eye surrounded by swirling scripts. It didn't look magical in the flashy way, but it felt powerful, alive, like it was watching everything. I saw mine the next morning too, Rhea said. No one else could see it. Not the healers, not the professors, just Silas. Silas grunted and held up his hand. His mark was bolder, a thick crest shaped like a triangle wrapped in jagged chains. It pulsed like a heartbeat, brute force condensed into shape. Same for me, he said. Woke up with it. No pain, no change, but it doesn't go away. Vin stared at their hands for a long second, then said simply, interesting. Rhea's brow twitched. That's all you have to say? Yes. You're not worried? Why should I be? Silas leaned forward on the couch, elbows on his knees. Maybe because none of us asked for this? Maybe because symbols don't just appear on your skin unless something serious happened? Vin turned to them slowly. Her voice was calm, dry. We just fought our way through a sealed SSS rank gate, watched half the floor collapse, and walked out with zero system record of us ever going in. A symbol is the least concerning part of that week. Rhea couldn't argue with that. Still, she muttered, staring at her own mark. They're not normal. They feel tied to us, like something changed when we passed through that last chamber. Vin's voice softened slightly. Maybe something did. They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the sun was starting to set, painting the dorm windows gold. Inside, 3 students sat in the quiet with invisible marks no one else could see. Marks that refused to fade. Marks that, somehow, connected them to something they didn't understand. Silas finally spoke again. You think the others have one too? Rhea shook her head. I don't know. Evelyn would have said something if she did. And Lucian. She stopped. Vin looked up. What about him? Rhea frowned. He hasn't replied to any of my messages. Not one. Since the gate. Same here, Silas added. You think something happened to him? Vin said nothing. She looked down at her hand again. The mark glowed softly. Or maybe something's still happening. The silence lingered in the room. Then, what are you talking about? All 3 of them turned toward the door. Evelyn walked in with a calm look, her boots soft against the marble floor. Her blazer was half-buttoned, hair tied up loosely, and she carried a steaming cup of tea in one hand like she'd just woken up from a nap she didn't want to end. Rhea blinked. You're back early. Didn't feel like staying home, Evelyn replied. She took one more step in, her eyes shifting between them. Now, what exactly is still happening? Rhea didn't answer with words. She just raised her left hand and turned it slightly. The silver symbol shimmered softly, pulsing like a living thought. You see it. Evelyn tilted her head, frowned, then leaned in. No, what am I supposed to be seeing? Rhea lowered her hand slowly. Never mind. Wait, what was that? What are you guys hiding? Evelyn's voice sharpened just a bit. Before anyone could answer, the door behind her opened again. Heavy steps. A shadow crossed the room before the man himself appeared. Dean Garros. His coat trailed lightly behind him as he walked in, eyes sweeping across the room with the kind of sharpness that cut without needing words. Everyone straightened instinctively. Even Vin. Garros stood at the front of the room, hands behind his back, posture tense but unreadable. His eyes landed on each of them. Rhea, Silas, Vin, Evelyn. Then his gaze sharpened. Where is Lucian? The question landed heavy. Rhea opened her mouth, unsure what to say. But before she could speak, I'm here. Everyone turned at once. Lucian stood in the far corner, near the tall shelf by the windows. He wasn't hiding. He was just quiet, leaning slightly against the wall, arms folded, eyes tired but focused. Garros exhaled softly. Good. Since you're all here, I'll get straight to it. He stepped forward. Everyone stared. Garros locked eyes with them. Your early graduation has been canceled. Silas blinked. What? Silas blinked. What? The room froze. Rhea sat up straighter. Vin didn't move, but her gaze locked onto Garros. Evelyn looked genuinely confused. But Lucian stepped forward. No, he said. Garros turned his head slightly. Excuse me. Lucian walked slowly toward the center of the room, his arms now at his sides, voice even but sharp. We had a deal. Garros didn't respond. Lucian kept going. You said if we entered that gate, if we survived that bullshit SSS rank trap, you'd sign off for early graduation. That was the deal. We risked our lives, and we still cleared it, even after things went sideways. Garros stayed silent. You can't go back on that now. Garros met his eyes. The situation has changed. Lucian's jaw tightened. No, you changed it. I'm trying to protect you. Protect us from what? Lucian cut in. We already faced something worse than what's out there. We were S-rank at best when we walked into that gate. We fought through something that doesn't even exist in your records. And we came out standing. Barely, Garros muttered. But we did, Lucian said, stepping closer. We survived. We won. And now you're saying we can't graduate? Bullshit. Garros exhaled slowly. His voice lowered. It's dangerous out there now. More than before. Someone's targeting you. All of you. Lucian laughed once. Not with humor. Just disbelief. And Garros frowned. And I'm not letting you walk out and get yourselves killed. Lucian's voice dropped. I don't need protection. Rhea and Silas shifted uncomfortably, but they didn't interrupt. Lucian continued. I'm not asking to be coddled. I'm asking for what we earned. If you're saying no, then I'm done. I'll drop out. Lucian, I'm serious. His tone was flat. Final. If I can't graduate, I don't need your license, your badge, your recognition. Garros's brow tightened. If you walk out now, you won't be recognized by the Hunter Association. No badge means no gate clearance. No commissions. No credits. No backup. You'll be nothing but a rogue. Lucian didn't blink. Then I'll be a rogue. That's not how this world works. Lucian scoffed. The First Awakeners didn't have badges when they raided their first gates. They weren't waiting around for paperwork and uniforms. They saw a threat, and they handled it. You're being reckless. I'm being honest. You're the one changing rules mid-game. Garros raised his voice. You don't understand what's happening. Lucian snapped back. No, I understand perfectly. I understand that we fought through hell, made it out, and now you're scared of what we became inside that gate. The room went silent again. Lucian turned his head toward the others. Well, he said, you coming or what? Silas opened his mouth, paused. Rhea looked at her hand. Evelyn stayed frozen. But then, sit down, Garros said, voice firm. Everyone stiffened. Lucian stared at him. Make me, he said quietly. But it wasn't Lucian who answered. Vin stood up. She didn't speak right away. She walked calmly toward Garros, her cloak brushing softly across the floor. Then she stopped, just a few feet from him. She looked up. Dad, she said softly. Don't do this. The room went dead still. Everyone stared. Silas's lips parted slightly. Rhea's eyes went wide. Evelyn almost dropped her cup. Lucian blinked. Wait, what? Garros's jaw clenched, but he didn't deny it. You're from a Thorn family? Rhea said, stunned. Vin didn't look away from Garros. He's my father. Lucian tilted his head, slowly. Well, didn't see that coming. Garros looked between them, gaze heavy. Then he stepped back. I'm sorry, he said. You promised, Vin said. I know. Then keep it. I can't. Silas did now, too. So that's it? After everything. Now we're prisoners? I'm trying to keep you safe. Lucian laughed again. Then you're doing a shitty job. Garros turned, stepped toward the wall behind his desk. His palm pressed against the scanner. There was a loud click, then a pulse. A soft hum filled the air. Everyone in the room felt it immediately. Rhea gasped. Silas staggered slightly. Evelyn gripped the edge of the table. Vin's eyes narrowed. Lucian exhaled slowly as a weight pressed against his chest. You activated a dampener, he said, voice tight. Garros didn't turn around. The academy is under lockdown. All exits are sealed. Anti-ability field is active. Until further notice, no one leaves. Rhea clutched her stomach. I can't feel my mana. Silas's fists trembled. My strength is dropping. Evelyn's eyes widened. He's serious. Lucian stood still. Didn't flinch. Didn't yell. He just looked at Garros. Long quiet. You really gonna do this? Garros turned to face him. Yes. I trusted you. I know. Lucian stepped closer, even as the dampener made every breath feel heavier. I thought you were different, he said. I thought so too, Garros replied. Lucian stared at him for a long moment, then looked away. He turned to the others, Rhea, Silas, Evelyn, Vin. Lucian was done playing nice. Lucian took a slow breath and closed his eyes. Everything went still. The weight of the dampener hung in the air like wet concrete, pressing down on every nerve, every cell. The others were sweating, their abilities muted, like being cut off from part of themselves. But Lucian was silent. Then, he opened his eyes, and something shifted. Rhea flinched first. She wasn't sure what changed exactly, until she looked into his gaze. Silas saw it too. Rhea, he whispered, voice tight. I see it, she murmured. In Lucian's pupils, faint but glowing, an infinity symbol shimmered like a mark etched into the soul. Looping, pulsing, alive. Vin blinked once. Her expression barely changed, but her eyes locked on it. It wasn't just visual. The room changed with it. The pressure of the dampener, gone. Rhea gasped as her mana flooded back. Silas grunted, rolling his shoulders as the weight lifted from his muscles. Vin raised her hand. The symbol on her palm pulsed once. Only Evelyn didn't see it. She just blinked and looked around, confused. Wait, did it shut off? No, Rhea muttered. He canceled it. Lucian took a breath and blinked once. And the world stopped moving. Literally. The flickering lights froze in place. Dust in the air hovered mid-fall. Even the hum of the dampener systems halted like someone had cut the audio from a scene. Everything paused. Except them. Class 0 stood still but breathing. A subtle glow shimmered around each of them. Faint, like the edge of a dream, but enough to show they weren't caught in it. Rhea looked around. Stopped, Silas finished, stunned. You stopped it. Lucian didn't answer. He just turned and walked toward the door. It opened like nothing was wrong. The hallway outside was frozen too. Faculty mid-step, students halted mid-conversation. No sound, no movement. Rhea followed, then Silas. Evelyn hesitated, then stepped through. Only Vin stayed behind for a second longer. She walked up to Garros, her father. He stood completely still, caught in the frozen moment, a faint line of tension on his face. She looked at him, quiet. Then, slowly, she leaned forward and kissed his cheek. I'm sorry, she whispered, then turned and followed the others. Outside, it was chaos and still life. Dozens of armed guards in academy colors were surrounding the building, frozen mid-formation. Magic circles glowed faintly beneath their feet, traps and barriers halfway finished. Mech stood at the far ends of the courtyard, weapons primed but motionless. Silas whistled. He really wasn't playing. Nope, Lucian muttered. Rhea looked around. How long can you keep this up? Lucian glanced at her. Long enough. Then he raised a hand. A pulse of energy flickered out from his palm, silent, bright, precise. Reality itself seemed to bend for a moment, then twist. And above them, the sky cracked open like glass breaking. A shape descended, massive, silent, smooth as obsidian and silver. It didn't roar or thunder. It didn't shake the ground. It just appeared, folded in like it had always been there, hiding between seconds. The ship floated like a god's thought, shimmering, alive. A voice echoed gently in their minds, warm, feminine, and curious. Summoning complete. Welcome back, Master Lucian. Silas' mouth dropped open. What the hell is that? Lucian smiled just a bit. Item, Infinity-class mothership, Nova Sanctum. He said it like he was reading off a menu. Living vessel. Stealth drive. Reality anchor. Warp gate engine. You know, the usual. Rhea stared up at it, eyes wide. You're joking. Evelyn just blinked. That's a ship. It's more than a ship, Lucian replied. The vessel hovered lower. A small ramp extended downward, clean silver metal glowing with faint blue glyphs. The air shimmered around it like the ship was breathing. Come on. He walked up the ramp. The others followed, wide-eyed. The moment they stepped in, it hit them. The inside of the Nova Sanctum wasn't just big. It was vast, endless. A cathedral-sized entrance hall greeted them, lined with polished black stone floors and walls that shimmered with stars. Actual stars, tiny galaxies shifting gently behind transparent panels. Everything felt alive. The ceiling stretched forever, yet didn't feel oppressive. It felt open, deep, like looking up into space. Holy, Silas muttered. This is insane. Rhea touched the wall beside her. It responded, rippling gently beneath her fingers, almost like it sighed. This thing's alive? She asked. Lucian nodded. It's bound to me. A living vessel made from folded space-time and infused with sentient code. Evelyn was spinning slowly in place, staring at everything. This is like walking through a dream. Then stepped forward. Feels like home. They moved deeper. Hallways extended endlessly, branching in every direction. Some led to rooms that looked like entire training facilities. Others pulsed with strange light, dimensional labs, meditation chambers, even one room that seemed to house a floating lake surrounded by glowing lotus petals. Silas poked his head through one door and stepped back, eyes wide. Okay, that room is just a void. Like actual void. You drop something in there, and it doesn't come back. Lucian smirked. That's the memory archive. Don't fall in. Rhea shook her head, still stunned. How does this even exist? Same way we survived that gate, Lucian said. Some rules don't apply to us anymore. The ship adjusted with every step they took. Lights shifted to match their pace. The air stayed fresh, never stale. Screens lit up when looked at. Rooms opened without needing keys. Eventually, they reached the central command chamber, a massive circular space with a platform at the center. Floating monitors showed views of the academy, frozen below. The console pulsed gently beneath Lucian's hand. He placed a palm on it. Nova, he said calmly. Leave the academy grounds. Confirmed. There was no rumble, no vibration, just a gentle shift in gravity, like an elevator moving through nothing. The ship pulled away from the sky above the academy. A field shimmered around it, stealth drive active. They passed through clouds like ghosts. Silas leaned over the console. So, where are we going? Lucian looked out the front view, where stars were starting to appear in the upper atmosphere. I don't know yet, he said. Somewhere the system can't reach us. Somewhere we could train. Figure out what happened in that gate. Rhea crossed her arms. And if they come after us? Lucian's eyes narrowed. Let them. The ship moved faster. Inside, rooms continued opening themselves. There were infinite halls, each one designed by thought. A gravity chamber, a combat arena, a relaxation pod with waterfalls that didn't touch the floor, a bedroom that adjusted to whatever dream you had the night before. The Nova's sanctum had no limits. Evelyn sat down on a couch in one of the main lounges. So, are we fugitives now? Technically, Lucian said, leaning against the wall. Vin curled into one of the chairs, eyes half-lidded. Better than being prisoners. Silas opened the fridge in the kitchen sector and whistled. Okay, this thing restocks on its own. Auto-repair. Auto-replenish. AI-controlled, Lucian said. It even knows our favorite meals. A tray of hot food slid out from the wall. Silas blinked. Okay, that's scary, but I like it. Rhea stood at one of the windows, looking down at the shrinking academy far below. Do you think he'll come after us? She asked quietly. Lucian walked up beside her. He might, he said, but I'm done waiting on people who say they're protecting us while locking us in. He looked over at the others, Silas laughing with food in his mouth, Evelyn sitting on a rotating couch with her legs tucked up, Vin curled up like a cat, Rhea quietly watching the stars. This was Class 0, and now they were off the grid. Lucian exhaled softly. Welcome home, he said. The Nova's sanctum flew into the clouds, and the world kept spinning behind them. 2 months later, the room felt colder than usual. Maybe it was the rain outside, or maybe it was the silence that had been building every day since they vanished. Lucy stood in the center of the office, arms crossed, gaze sharp. Her dark eyes didn't blink as they pinned Garros to his chair like a blade to the throat. They're still not back, she said quietly. Garros rubbed the side of his temple, his face tired, older than usual. Yes, he muttered. I know. You said you'd find them. Garros dropped his hand and looked up at her, the patience in his eyes already worn thin. Miss Lucy, we're doing everything we can. I got scouts searching every known gate site, every trace of spatial distortion, every hidden channel. Lucy said nothing. Garros continued, voice harder now. And if you haven't heard the news, my daughter, Vin, is missing too. So don't stand there like you're the only one who's lost something. Lucy's eyes twitched, but she didn't interrupt. Garros leaned forward, the calm in his tone barely holding together. Your brother was too stubborn to listen. He could have graduated peacefully, stayed protected, but he walked out, took the others with him. So now we're in this mess. He stood from behind the desk. Either they've been captured by the ones hunting them, or Lucian's up to something. He looked straight into her eyes. And knowing your brother, it's the second one. Lucy's jaw tightened. Garros waved his hand dismissively and turned away. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have more important things to do than stand here and listen to tantrums. There was a shift in the air, a subtle flicker, like the temperature dropped a few degrees in a second. Athena, who had been leaning against the wall, straightened up immediately. Garros paused, slowly turned his head. Black flames had started curling around Lucy's feet, slithering up her legs like smoke from a furnace. Her eyes had gone dark, burning with shadow fire, her voice low but vibrating. "I don't care what you think," she said. "I just want my brother found." The flames licked the floor, but didn't burn it. They pulsed with restraint, but only barely. "I'll burn this place down if I have to, and I won't regret it." Garros's fingers twitched toward the emergency rune on the wall, but then, "That's enough, dear." The voice cut through the tension like a calm breeze through fog. Lady Marin stepped forward from the corner where she had been sipping tea, her silver cane tapping lightly as she walked. Her white hair was pinned back in a simple braid, and her eyes, gentle but not soft, landed on Lucy with quiet weight. "Let's not char the old man just yet." Lucy's flames hissed, then slowly flickered out. She looked away, breathing hard. Lady Marin walked between them, resting one hand on Lucy's shoulder. "I understand your anger," she said gently. "Truly. But don't let it cloud the fact that we still need each other." Garros turned fully now, arms crossed. "With all due respect, Lady Marin, you're not part of this academy. You don't answer to the board." "I don't," she replied casually. "But that doesn't mean I'm blind." She tapped her cane twice on the floor. "The fact that 6 of the most talented young hunters this world has seen vanished under your watch is already a stain. If this gets out," Garros's jaw tightened. "We're keeping it under wraps for now. You won't be able to forever," Marin said softly. "The name Lucian Black isn't small anymore. Neither is Class 0. The gate they cleared, the one your systems don't even recognize, that'll come out eventually. And when it does, this little cover-up you're playing is going to look a lot like abandonment." Garros didn't answer. Lucy turned away, still fuming but quiet now. Lady Marin looked at Garros, her tone shifting from gentle to pointed. "You said you have people searching, but are they really searching or just going through motions?" Garros narrowed his eyes. "My people are risking their lives out there." "Then risk more," she said plainly. "Or give me access to your archives. I'll find them myself." Garros raised an eyebrow. "You think you can do what trained trackers couldn't?" "I know Evelyn," she said, "and I've seen what that boy is capable of. If Lucian doesn't want to be found, you won't find him with soldiers. But you can find traces. Patterns. If he left behind anything, I'll see it." Garros stared at her for a long second, then finally nodded. "Fine. I'll grant you access to the logs." "Thank you," Marin said with a faint smile. Athena exhaled and relaxed against the wall again. Lucy glanced back toward Garros. "And what if they're in danger?" Garros met her eyes. "Then we'll bring them back." Lucy held his gaze long and hard. Then she turned away, her voice low. "You better." Lady Marin moved to the window, looking out at the distant training fields below. 2 months, she murmured. And not a whisper, not a footprint, no gate residue, no flare. She turned to Garros again. "Do you believe they're still alive?" Garros didn't speak right away. Then, quietly, he said, "I believe they're not dead." "That's not the same thing," Marin said. "No," Garros agreed. "It's not." A soft knock came on the door. One of the board agents stepped in, holding a crystal tablet. "Sir," she said, "new spatial fluctuations. Northwest Ridge. No origin point. No distortion signature." Garros took the tablet, eyes scanning it. Lady Marin's eyes narrowed. "That's them. You don't know that." "I do," she said, "because it's the first time something's moved and didn't leave a trace." Lucy's head snapped around. "You're sure?" "Lucian's not the subtle type," Marin said, lips curling into the slightest grin. "But he's not careless either. If they're back, they'll make it known." Garros sighed. "Then I'll dispatch a scout team." "No," Marin interrupted. "Don't send anyone." He raised an eyebrow. "Why not?" She stepped closer. "Because if they are back, and you move on them like you're still trying to cage them, they might not come home at all." Aboard the Novus Sanctum, 2 months later. Subjective time passed. 2 years. Lucian sat quietly in the Sanctum Novus Command Center, leaning back on the curved obsidian chair that seemed to mold around his posture. The lighting was low, with soft blue pulses running along the walls like a living heartbeat. In front of him, A translucent hexagonal interface shimmered with streams of data. A voice echoed through the air, calm, masculine, confident. False signal dropped, Commander. No traces left. They're watching, just as you planned. Lucian nodded once, slow and silent. Good work, Frank. Appreciated. Shall I prep the next distraction? Not yet, Lucian muttered as he stood up, brushing his fingers along the console. Let them stew for now. He turned, the curved glass doors sliding open without a sound as he stepped out into the central corridor of the ship. The air inside the Sanctum Nova was always clean. Not sterile, not artificial, clean. Alive. Like the ship itself breathed and adjusted with its occupants. Walls shifted slightly, reacting to his movement, lights adjusting to his steps. Lucian passed by floating data orbs, dormant drones hanging like bats from magnetic veins in the ceiling, and walls that rippled with runes glowing softly. At the far end of the corridor was a set of twin gates, the entrance to the holographic projection and training simulation deck. He stepped through. Inside, the floor had become a floating platform suspended above a shifting elemental battlefield. Fire on one side, glacial winds on the other, and fractured stone in between. Terrain changed every few minutes. The training sim never repeated. Vin was balancing mid-air on a spiral of wind. Eyes closed, swords dancing around her on their own as she focused. Rhea stood in the middle of the storm, covered in glowing circuits as she controlled over a dozen spell circles in perfect sync. Her eyes tracked everything, calculating outcomes before they even played out. Silas was laughing while punching through a stone behemoth the sim had thrown at him. His reinforced coat gone, upper body bare and glowing with new energy cores pulsing across his arms. Evelyn, calm and deadly, stood atop a glacier, weaving threads of raw mana between her fingers, each one slicing through whatever approached her. They'd been here for 2 months. For them, 2 years. Time dilation inside the Sanctum's core chamber made every hour outside stretch into weeks. They trained like maniacs, broken down and rebuilt themselves. Again and again. They were no longer students. They were monsters. Lucian watched for a bit, leaning on the rail, arms crossed. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. He was proud. Then Silas turned and shouted, "Oi, boss man's back from his cave." Evelyn stopped her spell with a flick. The glacier cracked behind her. Rhea dropped her circuits and jogged up the slope to meet him. "Took you long enough," she said, brushing sweat from her cheek. Lucian nodded. "You all look good." "We are good," Silas said, stretching with a crack of his back. "I'm this close to punching time itself." "Don't tempt him," Vin said softly, walking over with her sword, now sheathed behind her back. Rhea exhaled and sat down on a shifting block of floating terrain. "So what now? We're basically gods. We can't exactly call ourselves Class 0 forever." Silas flopped beside her. "Yeah, that name's cursed now anyway. Can't believe the board still hasn't owned up to dumping us." "Let them rot," Evelyn said, sitting beside them. "They'll see us eventually, just not like we were." Lucian stayed quiet. Rhea glanced at him. "You're not going to name us, are you?" Lucian shrugged. "You're the one who likes naming stuff." "True," she smirked. "Okay, let's see." Silas raised a hand. "Punch Squad." "No," Evelyn said flatly. "What about Nova Force?" Vin offered. Rhea wrinkled her nose. "Too spacey." Evelyn thought for a second. "Shadow Flare." Lucian raised an eyebrow. "We're not a boy band." Rhea clicked her tongue and leaned forward. "All right, listen. This ship, Sanctum Nova, it's literally the reason we're alive, right?" Everyone nodded. "So," Rhea continued, "we're not Class 0 anymore." She grinned. "We're Sanctum 0. The room went quiet. Vin nodded first. "It fits." Silas grinned. "I like it." Evelyn looked around, then gave a small nod. "Approved." Lucian looked at each of them. His eyes flicked to the console floating beside him. He typed something in silently. The ship's main AI echoed in. "Squad name registered. Sanctum 0. Welcome." Lights across the chamber flickered once, acknowledging the name. Lucian gave a small smile. "Then, it's official." Rhea clapped once. "Hell yeah." Silas leaned back and yawned. "Can we eat now?" "Go," Lucian said. Frank's already prepped the mess. Stake Sims on. Everyone started moving out, chattering as they walked. Vin paused briefly beside Lucian. "You're hiding something," she said quietly. He looked at her. She didn't press, just smiled and walked off. Lucian turned and exited through a different corridor, one not marked. Only he could access it. He walked for a while. The corridor twisted, bent dimensions, until he entered what looked like a quiet, floating space within the core of the ship. It wasn't a room. It was his space. Dark sky stretched above. Stars that weren't stars blinked. The air shimmered with mana. Gravity didn't behave here. Things floated as they pleased. Lucian moved toward a floating pedestal at the center. Upon it rested the egg. Black, cracked with glowing golden lines. Ancient-looking, bigger than it was 2 months ago. Something thumped softly inside it now, like a slow heartbeat. Lucian sat in front of it, knees bent, elbows on thighs. Item, primordial drake Ejiji bound. It pulsed once as if acknowledging him. He stared at it, then opened his hand. Mana gathered slowly in his palm. Just a little more, just enough to wake it up. He exhaled. "It's time." And the egg responded. The egg pulsed again, gold veins flaring slightly brighter across its jet-black shell. Lucian watched without blinking. Mana flowed softly from his palm, not forceful, just steady. A gentle feed of essence shaped by his will. His energy sank into the egg like ink dropped in water, spreading slowly, vanishing into the cracks. The shell twitched. Then again, Lucian stood slowly, hands lowering, watching the change. The golden lines burned brighter, curling across the egg like living veins. The floating pedestal trembled, vibrating with a low hum that echoed across the space. A gust of wind stirred, where there shouldn't have been any. Then came a first sound, a muffled thump, a second thump, a low, guttural growl, like the sky itself was waking up. The egg cracked. Hairline fractures spread out with a faint hiss. Golden light leaked through every crack, lighting up the dark chamber like a miniature sun was being born. Lucian didn't step back. He didn't flinch. He just whispered, "Come out." The egg shattered. It didn't explode. It simply fell apart, petals of black and gold drifting around the newborn shape inside. Light curled around it, reshaping, condensing, folding into scaled skin. Wings, horns, claws, eyes. It hovered, barely off the pedestal, still curled, still small, but its presence was massive. Pressure rolled off its body like gravity had just gotten heavier. Then it opened its eyes, burning red gold, slit pupils, intelligent, ancient, newborn. Lucian met its gaze. It stared back. A voice entered his head, not words but meaning. "You're mine." Lucian let out a breath. "Yeah, I know." The drake uncurled slightly, floating toward him like it had been swimming through air its whole life. Its scales were a shifting black with glints of starlight between the ridges, almost like a living constellation. For horns curved backward from its skull, 2 smaller ones near the jawline. Its wings weren't feathered or leathery, but jagged, half-formed blades of mana and matter. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. And it was his. A screen blinked into existence beside him. System notification. Creature bond established. Primordial drake. Rank. Name. Unnamed. Species. Draconis infinitum. Mutation. Elemental affinity. Infinity. Undefined. Evolves based on bonded host. Growth stage. Infant. Rank. Unknown. Scaling beyond known thresholds. Passive abilities. Eternal embryo. Will never die of age. Can evolve endlessly based on stimuli. Infinity resonance. Shares partial resistance to all elements and forces currently resisted by host. Dimensional familiarity. Can exist in spatial rifts and phase between dimensional layers. Active abilities. Draconic pulse. Emits a shockwave that disrupts magic and matter in a radius. Mana sink. Can consume and store excess mana from surroundings or host. Astral howl. Locked. Roar that temporarily bends physical laws. Bond type. Soul-fused familiar. Cannot be transferred or severed. Lucian let the screen vanish. The little drake circled him once, then landed softly on his shoulder, curling its tail around his neck. Its body radiated warmth, not burning, just grounding. "You feel like family," Lucian whispered. The drake purred. He paused, then smiled faintly. "Let's give you a name." He raised his finger and drew a small rune in the air, just for the feeling of it. The drake watched, its head tilted slightly. Lucian's voice was soft. "You were born from mana, bound to infinity, shaped by my thoughts." He looked at it again. The glow in its chest pulsed gently, like a second heart linked to his. "You'll grow, change, break limits." He thought for a long second, then said, "Your name is Kaylee's." The rune burned softly, then vanished. The drake's eyes narrowed slightly in approval, then leaned its head against his jaw. System update. Familiar registered, Kaylee's. Current state, stable. Bond confirmed. Emotional link, warming. Lucian turned around slowly, taking in the entire space around him. Stars blinked in patterns he still didn't understand. Winds moved sideways. Time ticked in an odd rhythm here. It had become his sanctuary, his world, and now their world. Kaylee's fluttered down to his forearm, then onto the floating stone floor below them, stretching its wings once, then again, trying to fly higher. A clumsy spin followed by a tumble that made Lucian chuckle for the first time in days. "You'll get it." Kaylee's growled like it agreed. Lucian raised a hand, and from the sky above, several floating orbs of raw elemental energy descended. Fire, water, earth, wind, and something darker. Kaylee's looked up with wide eyes. "Pick one," Lucian said. "Let's see where you lean." The drake pounced toward the fire, paused, sniffed it, then leapt for the wind, spinning midair and absorbing it into his body. The orb vanished. Kaylee's landed, tail flicking. His scales shimmered slightly. Lucian raised an eyebrow. "Wind affinity first? Interesting." Kaylee's burped. A gust of wind shot across the room, knocking over a few floating stones. Lucian laughed. "All right, we'll keep that quiet for now." He knelt, scratched Kaylee's chin. "You're not just a pet. You're going to be a damn problem for this world." The drake nuzzled closer. Lucian looked up, his eyes calm. Soon, they would return. Sanctum Zero was ready. And now, so was he. Elsewhere, outer sector field line. Carl stood on the edge of a ruined cliff, coat fluttering softly behind him as his eyes narrowed at the horizon. Something ancient stirred. A pressure, dense, wild, regal. "A dragon," he muttered, eyes still sharp. "No, that's not just any dragon. That's something bigger." His hand flexed unconsciously as the weight of that presence crawled through his skin. "Are the elders finally moving?" he asked the wind, voice low. "Or is there another hidden beast in this world?" But nothing appeared. No envoys, no challengers, no announcements, just that pressure. And then silence. Carl frowned, more confused than concerned. Strange. He turned, slowly walking back toward the shaded camp he'd built nearby. But his thoughts weren't at rest. Lucian, that damn boy, had shaken him months ago at Zenith. Not just with raw power, but with that eerie calm, that presence, that thing behind his eyes. Carl hadn't forgotten it. No one should be that strong at that age, especially not a human. And ever since then, Lucian had gone completely dark, like he never existed. Carl didn't like things he couldn't track. Still hiding, he muttered under his breath. Or maybe waiting. But before he could sink deeper into his thoughts, a faint ripple passed through the air behind him. A tear in space. A gate. A twisted one. Carl turned, just in time to see the world break. Boom! A huge rupture in the sky, cracked wide open, like a scar splitting the land. Purple lightning spat from the edges as a massive portal exploded outward. Dozens of creatures burst out in a chaotic swarm. Fangs, claws, black slime, sharp scales. Monsters of all kinds charged out like they'd been starving in the dark. Carl didn't even flinch. He just blinked once and exhaled. TCH. And here I was hoping for a quiet morning. The monsters didn't care. They charged past him, heading straight for the sector walls in the distance. Screeching, howling. Their numbers swelled with every passing second, like something was pumping them out of the gate. Carl simply raised a brow as they stampeded. What's with the sudden rush? He looked toward the distant human city beyond the sector wall. The defense turrets were already lighting up, firing tracer rounds into the horde. But it wasn't going to be enough. Not against this tide. He smirked lazily. Can't have you all ruining the fun before I'm done with my end. Then, with no warning, he lifted one hand and pointed a single finger toward the barrier that protected the human sector. His fingertips sparked. Ziamum, a thin beam of deep red light shot forward, silent, focused, and deadly. And in one clean, surgical strike, boom, the wall exploded inward, a hole carved perfectly through its defenses. The monsters roared in approval and stormed through like unleashed demons. Chaos followed. Screams echoed from the city behind the breach. Alarm sirens rang out. Carl stood there, watching, arms folded, smirk growing. Let's see how long they last. Outer world, Hunter Sector 3. The sky cracked open. No warning. No signal. Just raw chaos. Across the world, gates began to split through the atmosphere like divine blades dragging open wounds in reality. Purple lightning. Crimson fog. A storm of unnatural pressure flooded through every corner of civilization. People on the streets screamed. Kids pointed up. Hunters felt their cores tremble. And then came the monsters. Dozens. Hundreds. Thousands. Pouring out of the gates like a stampede of nightmares. Fangs, eyes, wings, slime, blades, smoke, tendrils, all twisted and hungry. They dropped into cities, towns, fields, highways. No region was spared. The world was under siege. Inside the central headquarters of the Hunter Association, alarms blared like war drums. Sector 5 breached, gate forming near Bastion High. 2 more in the eastern quadrant. Vice Commander Rail slammed his hands on the table. Call every damn hunter. I don't care if they're retired, injured, or suspended. Mobilize everyone now. Operators scrambled. Screens flickered with red zones. Cities in panic. Streets stained. Monsters overwhelming local defenses. Drones went offline one after the other. Rail's eyes narrowed. His armor clicked into place. Activate Protocol Ragnarok. There was silence for a second. Then the entire building shook as blast doors unlocked and the world-scale defense protocol came online. Hunters across the world received one single notification on their wristbands. Warning alert, global gate incursion. Status, level 9 threat. Order, full mobilization. Objective, hold the world line. Hunter Sector 12, North Plateau. The monsters came in waves. Talon beasts with glass wings swooped from above. Razor hounds stalked through the shadows, leaping at any movement. Fog munchers, a blob of fog that screamed like a dying child, covered entire blocks, melting flesh on contact. A squad of hunter trainees were already holding position behind a collapsed bridge. Yen, they're flanking left. I see it. Yen, barely 16, pulled her crossbow and loosed a burning bolt. It flew through the air, split into 3 mid-flight, and struck a 3-headed crawler through the skulls. Boom, boom, boom. Blood splattered. Screams echoed. Beside her, Jordan, rank B, close combat type, charged with 2 axes crackling with electricity. He swung wildly, slicing a beast clean in half. Back to back, everyone. More gates opened, and more monsters poured out. Yin shouted, where the hell is backup? Hunter Association Mobile Fortress Command Tower. Deploy the vanguards. Send Li Ran's unit to Sector 3. Mobilize the Phoenix Wing now. Massive warships flew through the skies, hovering above burning cities. Attached beneath them, hunter squads dropped like missiles, each landing a seismic punch to the earth. Li Ran, rank A+, landed with a sonic boom. His blade, verdant sever, sliced through a line of monstrosities in one arc. Clear the perimeter, he barked. His team moved with deadly precision. One girl floated midair, glyphs glowing beneath her, casting area freeze. The entire ground beneath them turned to ice, monsters slipping, falling vulnerable. Finish them. Li Ran spun once, sword dancing. 3 monsters down. Then a hammer flew past him, shattering the jaw of a winged serpent mid-flight. Liran nodded to the thrower. Mara, built like a tank, laughed her wild. Still alive, old man? Keep count, he smirked. I'm ahead by 3. Sector 6, Bastion High Academy. Students were already outside when the gate ripped open above the school field. Instructors activated a temporary barrier just in time to block the first wave, but it wouldn't hold long. Head instructor Genji stood at the front of the line. His white coat fluttered, sleeves rolled up, his blade still in its scabbard. Students behind me. Faculty front. If you run, you die. If you hesitate, you die. So what do we do? Fight, the students screamed. He smirked. That's more like it. He vanished. Literally. A blink later, Genji stood in the center of the monsters, his scabbard still untouched. They lunged. Clang. One draw. A single arc of steel. And they all fell. The students gasped behind the barrier. Wah! Shut your mouth, another instructor muttered. This is why we follow him. More monsters broke through the sky. More gates, wider this time. Scatter. Genji barked. Form squads of 5. Students activated their wristbands. Weapons materialized. One student roared and turned into a shadow wolf, barreling into the horde. Another unleashed explosive paper charms that carpeted the sky. Flames, ice, gravity distortion, psychic beams. The school became a battlefield. Genji smiled faintly. Now they're learning. Sector 9, civilian zone evacuation. The screams were the worst part. Families running, kids crying, people trapped under rubble. The monsters didn't care. They tore through crowds, trying to reach the emergency gates. That was until the hunter cleaners arrived, a specialized squad for urban defense. Leader, Sana, quiet, lethal, dual daggers and a wind cloak. She appeared in a blur, her daggers spinning like fans. One monster lunged at a woman and child. Slick, head rolled, body hit the ground. Sana crouched low. Sector is compromised. Get the civilians through Gate B. One of her teammates set up a portable barrier. 5 minutes. That's all I need. You get 2. Sana was already gone again. The alleyways turned into kill zones. Hunters weaved through collapsing buildings, using walls as springboards, spinning midair to drop energy bombs into the monster swarm. Civilians cried. Blood spilled. Chaos ruled. But the hunters didn't stop. Hunter HQ, War Room. Vice Commander Rail watched it all on the global map. Blinking red. Everywhere. A full-blown global crisis. His hand hovered over the emergency seal. Sir, a young hunter said beside him. Do we issue the Dominion-class hunter summoning? Rail narrowed his eyes. No, he said. Not yet. But let them fight. His voice was calm. But inside, he felt it too. Something worse was coming. The monsters weren't just wild. They were organized. They moved in waves by command, like someone or something was coordinating them. And the longer this lasted, the more the hunters would be worn down. Still, he didn't press the button, because this wasn't just about surviving. This was a test. Sector 4 mountain ranges. The gates here didn't just open. They broke the mountains. Explosions erupted as titanic monsters crawled out, some the size of buildings. Their steps shook the landscape. Trees flattened. Valleys collapsed. The hunters here? Only 12 of them. But they were elites. One of them, Arjun, snapped his fingers, and a meteor rained from the sky, crashing onto the lead monster's skull. Still too slow, his partner yelled, riding a storm dragon through the air. She threw a spear made of compressed wind. It drilled into the monster's eye, exploding from the inside. Boom! Blood like lava splashed across the rocks. Another hunter, monk-like, stood still as monsters surrounded him, then clapped his hands once. Boom! A shockwave rippled through the air, flattening a quarter-mile instantly. All across the world, hunters stood their ground. In the cities, the skies, the ruins, the sea, from apprentices to veterans. Blood was spilled. Lives were lost. But the Hunter Association didn't back down. The gates had opened. The war had begun. And the hunters? They roar back. Hunter Sector 7, Red Valley. The air stank of blood. Screams, growls, and the crunch of bones filled the ravine. The monster wave here was endless. Ito's ranks were the front line, exhausted, breathing hard, bleeding from 100 cuts, but still holding on. Lance, a rank B blade specialist, was crouched behind a half-destroyed barricade, panting. His sword was cracked. His left arm dangled uselessly. "We're falling apart," he shouted, spitting blood. "No one's coming, damn it," a hunter screamed from above. "We are the reinforcements." A rank A woman beside him unleashed a chain of explosions with her staff. The blast sent half a dozen monsters flying, but more replaced them instantly. "Backline healers are all dead. We need someone stronger up front." Behind them, rank S and SS units were doing their best to lead. One SS hunter, a man with a huge glaive and armor laced with gold trim, was holding off a beast with 6 legs and rotating jaws. His swing sent shockwaves, but even he was beginning to crack. "They just keep coming," he grunted. He leapt, slashing through 3 more beasts, but his eyes darted up. Something was wrong. The sky above twisted. A gate opened, but not like the others. This one didn't crack open like lightning. It spread like ink. Silent, thick, heavy, and then it pulsed. The wind stopped. The ground shuddered. And then, boom, it crashed into the battlefield. A single beast, tall as a building. Its body was armored in obsidian scales, limbs elongated, and smoke leaked from its joints. Its eyes glowed like coals, and as it stepped forward, everything fell silent. An SSS rank monster. A real one. The SS rank hunter turned pale. "No, no, no, no." The creature roared. "Ka-harg." The sound alone ripped through the mountain. The shockwave blew the front line away like toys. Walls shattered. Bodies flew. Ito A-rank hunters were thrown like feathers, many not even getting the chance to scream. Dozens died instantly. The creature moved. Fast. It blurred. One step, and it crushed a rank A lightning user. Another step, and a rank S-bow user was ripped in two. It melted a tank with a breath, and impaled a squad with its tail like skewers. "Fall back," someone yelled. "Retreat." But there was no time. Another slash, and half the ridge was gone. It was a massacre. The SS hunter tried. He charged with his glaive, glowing white-hot. He struck the monster's leg with full force, and his weapon shattered. The beast didn't flinch. A swipe, and the SS hunter was gone. Just a spray of blood left in the air. The rest of the battlefield froze. No one moved. No one spoke. Hope started to vanish. That was until the air behind the monster shifted. A small flicker. Just one. Like a black candle igniting in a storm. And then, boom, a fist collided with the monster's face. No build-up. No warning. Just a flaming black fist. Boom. The entire SSS rank monster flew sideways, sent crashing through 3 cliffs, smashing boulders like glass. The shockwave melted the surrounding area. The flames didn't burn red or blue. They burned black. And floating just above the cracked battlefield was her. Lucy Black, hair tied in a lazy knot, leather jacket shredded at the sleeves, both her fists glowing with dense black fire. Her eyes cold, her body relaxed like she'd just woken up from a nap. "Sorry I'm late," she muttered. "Took me a while to get through traffic." Hunters stared up from the rubble. "Wait, is that?" "No way. That's Lucy Black. Black Flame Queen. SSS rank." She didn't wait. The monster was already recovering, standing again, snarling. But Lucy didn't let it speak, didn't give a chance to roar. She vanished. Boom. She was already there. One step, one fist, one strike straight to its gut. The black fire exploded from her knuckles. The monster howled. Its scales cracked. She didn't stop. She spun midair, elbowed its neck, grabbed its horn, yanked its head down, and kneed its jaw. Every hit was heavy. Every strike came with a blast of black flame. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't clean. It was violent. The monster snapped, swiped, roared. It swung a tail. Lucy caught it with one hand. The tail was the size of a truck. She twisted it, snapped, then rushed it again. "Hey, ugly," she said mid-punch. "Let me ask you something." Boom. "What gives you the idea?" Boom. "That you're allowed to show up." Boom. Without saying sorry, she planted both her feet into its chest and launched it upward. The monster was sent flying into the air. Lucy's eyes flared. Black flames poured down her arms, curling like dragons. She jumped high, higher than most humans should ever reach. And when she reached the apex, she curled her fist back. A firestorm gathered around her knuckles. Bad dog. And then, crash. She punched it down, straight, into the ground. Like a meteor, the entire sector shook. Dirt exploded. The shockwave leveled the battlefield. When the dust cleared, the monster wasn't moving, just a smoldering crater. Lucy dropped beside it, arms crossed. TCH, tough guy, huh? Hunters slowly came out of hiding, wounded, burnt, alive. They looked at her like she wasn't real, like a miracle. Yin was among them. She was covered in blood, trembling, her crossbow gone. She whispered, "She saved us." Another said, "We were already dead." Then she came. Lucy turned and cracked her neck. She stared at the battlefield, the bodies, the craters. She clenched her fists again. Black flames sparked up, still hungry. "Where's the next gate?" she asked. One of the hunters limped forward, still stunned. T2 more open near Sector 10. They're losing badly. Lucy nodded. All right. She kicked off the ground and disappeared in a boom of black fire. Only a single word lingered behind her like smoke in the air. Hope. Hunter Sector 10, Southern Wastes. The gates didn't just open. They vomited monsters like a flood of nightmares. Crawling, screeching, slithering. The sky was torn, the land cracked, and bodies were already piled high around the trenches where Sector 10's front line had collapsed. Hunters screamed into radios, begging for reinforcements. Most signals didn't even get replies. And then they came. Not from the sky. Not through teleport. They walked. Slowly. Proud. Like gods walking through fire. 7 shadows. And at the front, Aaron Thorn. A tall man in a blood-red coat that dragged behind him like a noble's funeral shroud. Hair white as frost, slick back. Eyes empty. Not calm. Not cold. Void. Like he didn't see people. Only toys. He raised one gloved hand as they approached the battlefield. Behind him, the 6 others of the Thorn family stopped in a perfect arc. Each one SSS rank. Each one wearing a variation of that same long coat. Their presence distorted the air. Aaron said, glancing at the chaos like it was an art gallery he didn't like. I suppose that's enough. Then he smiled. Slow. Thin. Dead. Tama cleaned the trash. He flicked his hand once, like shooing a fly, and the ground split. A black spike erupted beneath a cluster of monsters and impaled all 30 of them in one shot. Their bodies convulsed, melted, then turned to ash. Take the east, he said flatly. Leave the S-class bugs to me. The family moved. No words. No hesitation. Just power. One of them, Malek Thorn, a broad-shouldered man with metal band around his wrists, charged into a wave of creatures and detonated the ground with his fists. His ability, kinetic fuse. The more he moved, the more power he built. And now, he was dancing. Every punch was a shockwave. Every kick shattered bones. His laughter was brutal and loud, echoing across the battlefield. Come on, you animal bitches. Beside him, Selena Thorn, a woman with black hair and no visible weapons, simply raised her hand. The sky dimmed. Shadows poured from her fingertips like ink, crawling across the terrain. Every monster they touched stopped moving, froze, and dropped like puppets with cut strings. Silent kill. Her aura was death. To the west, Cato Thorn stood alone in a ring of flame, smiling gently. He clapped once, and everything around him burned. Not just fire. Reality burned. The ground. The air. The rules. A monster charged, and disintegrated before it even touched him. Too slow, he whispered, almost disappointed. Aaron, meanwhile, strolled forward, unbothered. Monsters snarled ahead. Dozens. No, hundreds. He stopped and sighed. Uncultured things. No beauty. No style. The monsters lunged, and Aaron raised both hands slowly, like a conductor before the symphony began. The air bent. The land peeled open. Black threads, thin, glowing, alive, slithered from his fingers and danced like silk ribbons in the wind. He snapped. Slice. Everything in a 500-meter arc fell. Not roared. Not exploded. Just fell apart. Cut cleanly. Neatly. Like paper dolls. Even the wind paused. Aaron tilted his head, looking at his work. Still too noisy, he muttered. The remaining hunters, what few were still standing in Sector 10, watched from cover, frozen. They didn't know who was worse, the monsters or the family that just arrived. That's the Thorn family. I thought they didn't respond to summons. They don't, someone whispered. He came because he was bored. One of the S-rank hunters dared to run up to Aaron. Sir, thank you for the backup. Do we coordinate with your team? Aaron looked at him, smiled, and stabbed him through the heart with a black spike made of nothing. The hunter gurgled and dropped. Aaron didn't blink. You're too loud. No one spoke after that. The battlefield turned quiet in his wake. Further ahead, a massive beast, another SSS-class monster, emerged from a collapsed gate. It was different. Smart. Watching. Aaron grinned. Oh, this one has thoughts. The creature snarled. Dark blue crystal jutted from its shoulders, energy crackling. Then it lunged. Boom! Faster than a jet. But Aaron was already in the air, floating. He rotated his hand once, and the monster's legs bent backwards like wet branches. The thing screeched, crashing into the dirt. Aaron descended slowly. You shouldn't crawl. The monster struggled, shaking off the curse, charging again. Too slow. Aaron grabbed its face. Black fire crept from his palm, but not like Lucy's. His fire didn't burn. It corroded. It ate. The monster screamed. It began melting alive. Aaron leaned in close, should die quietly, and crushed its skull like a fruit. Blood rained. Bones snapped. The body collapsed. He stood there, eyes flicking back toward the gate. Still pulsing. Still open. A third one began forming behind it. Aaron exhaled like it was mildly annoying. Bastards don't quit. A voice echoed through the comms. Vice Commander Rail. Aaron, stand by. Lucy's en route to Sector 10. Aaron clicked his tongue. Why? I already cleaned it. Another SSS class is coming. Bigger. Multiple signatures. Aaron grinned wide. For the first time that day, he looked alive. Finally, he rolled his neck. Fingers flexed. His aura began shifting, darker, sadder. Hollow. Tell your queen of Black Flame. If she's late, I'm not saving her portion. Rail's voice hesitated. Just don't kill her. No promises. Then he stepped forward. The air bent again, and far in the distance, something ancient and hungry stepped through the gate. Elsewhere, the mindless SSS ranks won't cut it, Kale muttered, voice low, eyes flicking across the stormy horizon. If it were up to me, I'd let the warriors burn this whole planet to ash. He chuckled, a slow, sharp sound. No joy in it, just hunger. But since the elders are asleep, guess I can have a little fun. His grin widened, teeth sharp as his eyes darkened with thrill. That name danced through his mind again. Lucian. That bastard better show up. I've been bored. And then it happened. His repressed aura, rank X, started to slip through the cracks. The ground beneath him cracked. Trees nearby withered. The air twisted and grew heavy, like the planet itself was rejecting him. Kale tilted his head. I feel them, a nest of SSS ranks, all in one place. He started walking, slow, but each step echoed like thunder. Perfect. Monsters kept pouring from the rift. Lucy's black flame spun like a cyclone around her fists, burning everything that came close. She moved fast, faster than most could see, vanishing between groups of monsters and reappearing mid-swing. A tusked beast lunged. She ducked low, flames lacing her elbow, and drove it straight into its jaw. Crack! The head snapped sideways with a burst of bone and blood. Another tried to flank her. She spun, crouched, then launched a brutal uppercut that split the creature apart from the inside, black fire devouring its chest before it even hit the ground. The field around her was littered with scorched corpses. Still more came. Lucy clenched her fist, breathing slowly. TCH, annoying little bastards. Then a gust blew through the battlefield. Heavy, not from wings, not from impact, just presence. Lucy's brow twitched. That smell. Shit. A moment later, the air warped, like space itself was irritated. And for the eastern ridge, they appeared. 6 figures walked calmly through the battlefield like it was their backyard. The ground trembled under their steps. And leading them, Aaron Thorne. He walked with that same funeral-like grace, red coat brushing over monster guts like silk over water. Not a spot of blood on him. Not a crack in his expression. His empty eyes scanned the carnage like it bored him. Lucy's flames flared brighter. Well, if it isn't the world's most punchable face. Aaron's steps didn't stop. He paused only when he was a few meters from her, hand behind his back like a noble with too much time and too little soul. Lucy Black, he said with faint distaste. Still playing with fire, I see. Lucy cracked her knuckles. Still talking like someone asked you to speak, I see. One of the hunters behind Aaron flinched, but Aaron raised a hand without looking. Let her bark, he said quietly. She's loud, not dangerous. Lucy's smile vanished. The black flames around her surged upward, spiraling like a dark halo. Keep running that mouth, and I'll show you where to shove your noble coat. Aaron tilted his head, then gave a half-smile. Such sharp words for someone who hasn't even buried her parents yet. Boom! The ground cracked under Lucy's step. She moved, fast, closing the distance between them in an instant, fist cocked back, flames hissing. But a hand caught her wrist. Garros. He stood between them now, tall, armor slightly scuffed, expression tired. Can you two not kill each other for one day? He muttered. Lucy pulled her arm back. Tell your brother to shut the hell up first. I'd love to, Garros muttered, glancing at Aaron, but that man's been impossible since the womb. Aaron raised a brow. Always the peacemaker, Garros. You'd be more useful if you picked a side. I'm picking a side, Garros said. The one where the world doesn't implode because you're both obsessed with being right. Lucy scoffed, but turned away, black flames cooling a bit around her shoulders. Whatever. Garros exhaled and faced the other hunters nearby, who were either stunned or trying to pretend they didn't hear anything. Clear the dead. Set up healing zones. We hold this point, he barked. Athena landed a moment later, light shoes touching the earth like a ghost. She didn't say anything at first, just stared at the bodies, the smell, the monsters twitching in the distance. Then her eyes moved to Lucy, then to Aaron. She sighed. Of course. Garros glanced at her. Took you long enough. Had to shut down a gate near the southern plateau. Don't complain. Athena crossed her arms, nodding toward Lucy and Aaron. They already at it, like fire and oil. Aaron clicked his tongue. I don't start fights. I end them. Lucy rolled her eyes. You couldn't end a wet dream. Before another insult could drop, the sky shifted. A ripple, subtle, but real. And then, footsteps. Not from the sides, from behind them. From nowhere. The air parted like silk, and a man stepped out. Tall, handsome, eyes glowing faintly with something not quite human. His hair swayed with the wind, clothes untouched by dirt or blood. His smile? Too casual. Yo, he said, waving lazily with one hand. Humans throwing a party without me? Every hunter turned, tense, weapons half-raised. The man didn't react. He looked around slowly, like he was admiring scenery. Then his gaze met Athena's. Long time. Athena's eyes widened just slightly. You. Garros looked between them. You know him. Athena didn't answer immediately. Her hand hovered near her blade. He was there during Zenith Week. Fought Lucian. Carl looked around slowly. Damn, this many SSS ranks in one place? I must have hit the jackpot. Garros stepped forward. Who are you? Carl tilted his head. Does it matter? Aaron narrowed his eyes. You're not registered. You're not even showing up on system scans. Carl gave a slow clap. Congratulations. You noticed. Without warning, one of the thorn hunters rushed forward, blade drawn. You talk too much. Carl didn't move. He just blinked, and the man stopped mid-swing. Stopped moving. Then, pop. His body burst like a water balloon. Blood rained. Everyone froze. Carl smiled through it like it was nothing. Aaron's expression shifted slightly. Lucy took a step back. He's not human, she whispered. Athena stayed still, calm. No. Carl stepped forward, eyes landing on her again. You didn't answer me last time. Where's Lucian? Silence. No one spoke. Garo stepped forward, blade half raised. Why do you want him? Carl sighed. Because I need to fight someone who's fun. His eyes flicked to Lucy. You're decent. Then to Aaron. You're boring. Then Athena. You're interesting. Then he stopped. None of you are what I'm looking for. Aaron stepped forward. Black threads shimmered around his hands. Then leave. Carl smiled. Make me. Before anyone could move. Boom. The gate behind them exploded. Not monsters. Not beasts. Kale walked through. Rank X aura bleeding from every step. Eyes locked on the battlefield. And when he saw Carl, he paused. Carl turned slowly, and for the first time, smiled like he meant it. Well, he said. Now this might be worth it. Kale's lips curled into something feral. Stay out of my way. Carl tilted his head. Or what? The sky trembled. The earth cracked. Lucy stepped back, fist igniting again. Shit. Athena's voice was calm, but sharp. Fall back. Garos called out. All units, get clear. Now. The world was about to break. And Lucian wasn't even here yet. The ground cracked beneath Carl's boots as he took a lazy step forward. Smoke curled from the broken gate behind him. Monster corpses sizzled in the aftermath. The scent of blood, ozone, and burnt flesh hung in the air. Carl tilted his head at Garos, Aaron, and Athena, unbothered. 3 assist drinkers, he muttered, voice light. Nice. This might actually be fun. His aura expanded. Thick, crushing, like gravity gone wrong. Lucy stepped back again, eyes flicking between Carl and the others. Even she could feel it now. This wasn't normal power. It wasn't something a human body was built to carry. Garos' armor clicked as he stepped forward, drawing his massive sword from behind his back. His eyes were calm but alert. You're not leaving, Garos said. Carl grinned. Wasn't planning to. The earth trembled. Then they moved. Boom! Garos vanished in a burst of light and slammed into Carl like a meteor, blade swinging wide. The impact cratered the field and sent shockwaves tearing through the nearby trees. Carl blocked with one hand bare. His skin shimmered faintly. You hit like a truck, he chuckled. Garos didn't respond. His armor lit up. Lines of orange and silver spreading across the plating. Core tightened form. His strength doubled, then tripled. He swung again, this time faster. He wasn't just brute force now. He was precision. Carl caught the blade again, but it pushed him back. His feet dug trenches into the dirt. That was enough for Athena to move. She whispered something under her breath, then stepped forward. Time slowed. Everything around her crawled, except her own movements. The second her boots touched the ground, glowing gears spun beneath her, dozens, hundreds, forming a circle that clicked perfectly in sync. Clockweaver. She zipped across the field and appeared beside Carl, 2 fingers aimed at his side. Tick! Boom! A compressed time blast exploded from her fingertips, spiking reality itself. Carl was blasted sideways, crashing through a ridge of stone with a grunt. He rolled once, and then bounced his feet, laughing. You people really don't hold back. Then came the third threat. Aaron. He hadn't moved since the start. He walked now. Slow. Silent. Unshaken. Black threads drifted behind him like smoke trails. They weren't visible to most, but everyone felt them. Carl narrowed his eyes. Aaron raised his right hand. The threads danced. They moved too fast to follow, and Carl's jacket tore open in 5 places at once. His cheek bled. His shoulder twitched. Carl muttered, grinning. That's new. Marrow string. Each thread was like a scalpel made from death. It didn't slice flesh. They sliced what held flesh together. Structure. Identity. They didn't just cut. They undid. Carl backed up and let his aura surge. Gold and white pressure exploded from him, pushing the hunters back. Garos blocked with his blade, sliding backward. Athena blinked twice, gears resetting as time snapped forward. Aaron stood still, unmoving, unreadable. Carl lowered his stance, eyes glowing now. All right, he said. Let's try this properly. He vanished. Boom. He appeared behind Aaron first. The air rippled as his fist closed in. But before it landed, Aaron's body twisted unnaturally, threads pulling his frame sideways like a puppet. Carl's punch missed by inches. Snap! A string wrapped around Carl's wrist tight. But Carl twisted with a grin and ripped it off like paper. Aaron's brow twitched for the first time. Resistant to concept damage, he said quietly. Garros didn't wait. He charged again, slamming into Carl mid-step, blade coated in raw energy. Each swing now thundered, the air screaming with every slash. Carl ducked the first, blocked the second, ate the third, and grinned through blood. Athena blinked back into frame. She appeared behind Carl and touched his spine. Tick! She froze his balance for 0.5 seconds. That was all Garros needed. His fist slammed into Carl's gut with enough force to level city block. Boom! Carl went flying through 3 hills and a cliffside. The earth rumbled. Lucy watched, breath caught in her throat. Did that, but then, from the rubble, Carl stood up. He dusted himself off, wiped blood from his lip, and smiled again. Okay, he muttered. Now I'm getting excited. He raised both hands this time. Golden energy spiraled out in rings, like ripples in a lake made of light. The field shifted. Everyone felt it. Athena's gears slowed. Aaron's threads flickered. Garros's armor dimmed slightly. Carl stepped forward. I don't know what this world's ranking system is, he said casually, but if I had one, this would be my SSS form. He moved again, faster. Before anyone could react, he punched Garros across the face, spinning in midair, then caught him by the ankle and hurled him into a boulder. Athena snapped her fingers, trying to bend time, but it didn't work. Carl was already inside her range. He grabbed her wrist gently and flung her like a rag doll. She bounced once, twice, and slid across the dirt. Aaron tried to cast strings. They never reached Carl. He grabbed one midair and snapped it like it wasn't even real. Then he kicked Aaron in the chest. Aaron didn't scream. He just flew back hard, crashing through 2 trees. The battlefield fell quiet again. Carl stood alone in the center, chest rising slowly. He stretched his neck once. Man, he muttered. Lucian better not disappoint after this. Lucy's shoulders twitched. Then her fingers curled, tight. The black flames around her didn't just flicker this time. They ignited, swirling like a typhoon chained to her bones. Her eyes locked onto Carl like a blade, snapping to target. You keep saying his name like you're worthy of him, she said, voice low. Carl blinked at her. Oh, you mad? The smile never left his face. His hair was tousled from the last few hits, a trickle of blood down his neck, but he stood there like none of it mattered. You think saying Lucian's name makes you sound cool, Lucy said, stepping forward. Makes you sound like you're part of his story. Another step. The black fire pulsed around her legs, burning the ground under her feet. But you're not, she said, eyes narrowing. You're just a speed bump. A loud one. Carl raised a brow, amused. Funny. You said the same thing about gods. Boom. Lucy moved. No build-up. No warning. 1 second she was 10 meters away. The next, her fist was in Carl's face. Black flames tore across the field as the blow sent him flying backwards, crashing into a jagged rock pillar that cracked in half from a force. The ground rippled. Trees burned. The wind screamed. Carl groaned, pulling himself out from the stone. He wiped blood from his jaw. That was rude, he muttered. But Lucy was already there. Her knee drove into his gut, flames wrapping her leg like a blade. Crack! He coughed, breath knocked out of him. But she didn't stop. Her hands blurred. 1, 2, 5 strikes, each wrapped in cursed flame, each driving Carl further into the dirt. Then boom! She roundhouse kicked him across the field like a missile. He skipped across the ground, dust and fire erupting in waves. Lucy landed hard, breathing sharp. Her fists burned like furnaces. But Carl stood, bruised, bleeding, still smiling. Now that, he said, cracking his neck, almost tickled. Lucy's eyes burned brighter. You're not listening, she said. He's not coming here for you. He's not coming here at all. Her voice trembled, not with fear, with fury. You don't matter to him. Carl's grin faltered for a second, but just a second. Then it came back, wider than before. Oh, I will. He blurred forward. But Lucy wasn't the same girl from 10 minutes ago. Her flame shifted. The black turned deeper. Darker. Unholy. A strange glow rippled up her arms, veins pulsing with cursed magic. Fire that didn't just burn, it erased. Carl swung. She caught it with one palm. No movement, just stillness. Then, boom! A geyser of flame exploded from her body, shooting skyward like a volcano erupting under pressure. Carl was launched upward, spinning midair, and Lucy followed in a trail of black light. She smashed into him with a flying elbow. Then again, each hit a detonation. Each hit carved through the clouds. Carl crashed back down, hitting the battlefield like a meteor. Dust, blood, stone, everything went flying. And Lucy landed in a crouch, one hand still smoldering, eyes glowing like twin black suns. "You want to fight?" she growled. "You'll get one." Carl coughed and chuckled through the blood in his mouth. "Damn," he rasped. "Lucian's not the only crazy one in that family." He sat up. "Fine then. Let's make this interesting." He stood again, slowly, still smiling, still insane. And Lucy charged again, eyes burning with the fury of someone who wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for her brother, for her name, for the reminder. Lucian Black wasn't alone in this world. And Carl was about to learn that the hard way. Carl's boots pressed into the dirt, cracks spidering out from his feet. Lucy didn't wait. Boom! She was already there. Her fists streaked through the air, black fire spiraling from her knuckles. Carl raised an arm to block, but the moment her flame touched him, it hissed, like it was peeling something off him that wasn't physical. Carl's smile twitched. This flame. Lucy didn't answer. She spun, heel cutting through the air, and a crescent of dark fire ripped toward him. Carl stepped aside, the heat grazing his coat, turning the fabric to ash. He countered, palm thrusting forward. Golden white energy roared out, slamming into her chest and throwing her back, until she dug her heels into the ground, sparks spraying from the force, and stopped dead. Her aura swelled. It wasn't just thicker, it was heavier. Black flames rose in tall waves, licking the air like the breath of something ancient. The ground beneath her feet darkened, stone turning to cracked obsidian. Carl's eyes narrowed. That's not SSS rank aura. Lucy moved again, faster. Her punch drove into his ribs, the flames wrapping it like a drill. The impact made the air itself shatter in a sharp crack. Carl staggered, breath leaving him in a hiss. He laughed. "I like this." Golden light burst around him, forming jagged rings that spun faster and faster. He stepped into her range, striking with both fists, each hit carrying the force to break mountains. Lucy blocked with her forearms, black fire spilling in arcs from every clash. Sparks of gold and black rained like a storm. Each step they took caved the ground deeper. Carl ducked low, sweeping a kick. Lucy jumped, twisting midair, and a burst of flame from her heel dropped straight toward him. Boom! The explosion threw smoke everywhere. Carl burst through it, arm cocked, and drove a punch toward her face. She caught it with one hand. Carl blinked. What? Her other hand slammed into his chest, and for a heartbeat, his golden aura flickered. The cursed fire wasn't just burning his body, it was gnawing at his energy. Carl stumbled back, eyes narrowing. "You're erasing my output?" Lucy's gaze was locked. "I told you, you don't matter, but I'll enjoy breaking you." She vanished. To Carl, she was gone, until her elbow smashed into the back of his neck. Then she was in front of him, knee to his jaw, then behind again, heel smashing into his spine. He crashed forward, dirt exploding under him. When he pushed himself up, blood trailed from his mouth. He wiped it with the back of his hand and smirked. "You're starting to piss me off." Golden lines shot from his feet into the earth, and in the next instant, dozens of golden pillars erupted upward, caging Lucy in a blinding storm of light. The cage collapsed inward, but the black fire flared, and the cage melted away like wax in a furnace. Carl froze for half a second. That was one of his rank X signature skills. She shouldn't have. Lucy was already on him. Her fist hit his jaw, flames surging so violently that his vision warped for a moment. Carl's head snapped to the side, and before he could recover, her follow-up hit dug into his gut so deep his ribs creaked. Carl skidded back, coughing blood, and laughing harder. "You're breaking the ceiling." Lucy's aura cracked the air now. Black fire threaded with something else. Something silver, like molten metal, running through her veins. Each breath she took shook the ground. Carl's grin was sharp. No one in this world has ever gone past SSS. Not without a boost. But you're punching into rank X raw. Lucy's voice was steady. Then you'll be the first to lose to it. Carl's laughter roared across the battlefield. "Try me." They collided. The shockwave blew Garos, Athena, and Aaron off their feet, even from hundreds of meters away. Trees bent until they snapped. The air screamed. Carl struck with a storm of golden-white fists, each carrying the force of meteors. Lucy met every blow, her black-silver flames clashing against his aura. The collisions didn't just make noise, they left holes in the air, vacuum pockets that snapped shut with thunderclaps. Carl's hand lashed out, grabbing her by the throat. He lifted her, but she grinned, hand gripping his wrist, and in a flash her flames surged up his arm. His golden skin sizzled. With a growl, he hurled her skyward. Lucy spun mid-air, fire swirling tighter around her body until she was a streak of black light, then dove back down. Crash! She hit him like a falling star, both of them smashing into the ground hard enough to split the earth open in a jagged canyon. Lava glimmered deep below as dust and rock flew. Carl pushed her off, swinging an elbow that she barely ducked. His knee caught her ribs, sending her sliding. She wiped blood from her lip and smiled faintly. "Better than I thought." Her aura climbed again. This time, Carl stopped moving. He could feel it. She wasn't just brushing rank X. She was clawing into it. And she was still climbing. He broke into a sharp grin. "You're insane." Lucy stepped forward, her shadow stretching unnaturally long behind her. The flames around her no longer looked like fire. They looked like the outline of some vast, horned thing curling around her frame. Carl lunged. Lucy met him halfway. Her fist slammed into his forearm, the impact ringing like steel on steel. He punched back. She caught it, their auras exploding in opposite colors. The shockwave hit like a quake, splitting the battlefield in two. They vanished again, appearing and reappearing in blurs, each hit lighting up the horizon. Carl's elbow cracked against her jaw. She spun with it, turning it into momentum for a back fist that burst his lip open. He hammered a palm in her stomach. She planted her feet and answered with an uppercut that nearly lifted him off the ground. Golden energy and black-silver flame spiraled together, eating the light from the sky. Carl laughed mid-fight, blood dripping from his chin. Yes, this is it." Lucy didn't answer. Her focus was absolute. Her next punch hit his chest dead center. And this time, the cursed fire didn't fade. It burrowed inward. Carl's aura dimmed, his breath hitched. For the first time, his stance broke. Lucy stepped in close, her eyes glowing brighter than the flames. "Fall." Her knee drove into his gut. Her elbow cracked against his skull, and her last hit, an overhead smash, drove him straight into the dirt, leaving a crater big enough to swallow a building. Carl lay there for a moment, chest heaving. Then, slowly, he started laughing again. Flat on his back, blood on his teeth, eyes wild. "You might actually kill me," he breathed, "and I've never been more excited." Lucy stood over him, her flames still raging, her aura still climbing. For the first time since the fight started, Carl wasn't sure if he could win, and he loved it. Carl lay in the crater, laughing through blood. Then the laughter stopped. His eyes went empty, like someone blew out the candle behind them. Golden rings of energy rose from his skin and broke apart into dust. The dust didn't fall. It hung there, then spun into a slow orbit around him, faster, tighter, until it collapsed inward and slammed into his body. The ground buckled. Lucy shifted her stance, shoulders square, fists still burning. "So that's the real you." Carl stood. No glow, No flare, just pressure. The air around him thickened until the heat of Lucy's flames warped. Veins of white gold traced his skin like etched constellations. When he inhaled, the clouds above pulled closer. When he exhaled, they rolled back. Full release, he said, almost bored. Let's see if you're still fun. He vanished. Lucy felt it, not saw it, the floor ghosting under her feet a blink before his knee cut up through her guard. She blocked, forearms ringing, slid half a meter and planted. Carl stepped into the opening he forced and hammered a straight punch toward her face. She didn't dodge. Her head dipped a hair, her right shoulder rolled, and she slipped the punch by an inch. Her counter walked up his ribs, body, chin, each hit detonating with black fire that chewed at his aura. Carl's head snapped back. She followed with a hook that clipped his jaw and sent a fountain of blood to the side. Still fun, he said, grinning. They collided again. To the watching hunters, it was a storm they couldn't enter. Every hit cracked the air. Every miss made the dirt scream. Lucy's flames weren't just flames anymore. Thin threads of bright silver ran through them, making each strike bite deeper, cut cleaner, erase harder. Carl's aura kept reassembling under the damage, like light knitting light. He grabbed her wrist. She rotated out and torqued his elbow. The joint popped and reset in the same motion. He slammed a palm to her chest. The shockwave launched her back, feet skidding trenches. She leaned into the momentum, sprang forward, and headbutted him. Bone crunched. They both grinned, feral honest. Carl spread his fingers. Golden sigils flared along his knuckles. The world hiccuped. He was behind her, then above her, then below, 3 angles at once collapsing into one hit. Lucy crossed her arms and took it, flames howling. The force buried her to the shins. Her eyes narrowed, and the black fire tightened around her like armor. She moved. No wind-up. No tell. Her fist speared his abdomen. The cursed heat punched through muscle and light at once, and for a flicker Carl's aura went thin. She stacked hits, left, right knee, elbow, hammer fist, each carrying weight like falling towers. He slid, boots carving V's into the ground. Carl laughed breathlessly. You're climbing. Lucy didn't answer. She felt it too, that thin edge between what she was and what came next. The black fire licked at it. The silver lines inside it sang. Her skin prickled, her bones hummed, her pulse turned to thunder. She took a step. The step sounded like a drum. Carl's pupils tightened. Oh, she arrived. Her punch didn't make noise. It deleted it. Carl's head jerked. The light along his jaw shattered into glitter. He tried to counter, but she was already on his blind side, flame-wrapped, knee driving into his liver. He folded, and she brought both fists down on the back of his neck, planting him face first in the dirt. He pushed up, spitting earth. Yes. Lucy's aura climbed again. The sky dimmed like it was giving her room. Carl wiped blood with the back of his wrist. The white gold lines along his skin brightened to a hard, painful light. All right, no more holding back. He lifted his foot and set it down. The ground caved in a perfect circle for 200 meters. He lifted his hand and closed it. Gravity snapped sideways. Dust, pebbles, even the hanging smoke bent toward his fist as if space itself owed him a debt. Lucy's hair tugged toward him. Her flames leaned, resistant, snarling. Come here, he said. Make me, she said and stepped into it. She walked against the pull like it was a hill. Each stride left glass. The black-silver fire along her arms turned needle-thin and precise, cutting the field of force away from her body as she moved. Carl's smile sharpened. Good. He let the field go and met her halfway. They traded close. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't clean. It was elbows and shoulders and short hooks and knees. It was heads knocking, teeth cutting lips, blood painting the dirt. His strength tried to crush. Her flame tried to erase. And somewhere in the middle, something evened it, while carving a path between them. Carl slipped her guard and hammered a fist into her ribs. She felt 3 cracks, tasted iron, and swung through the pain, her forearm crashing down across his neck. He stumbled a half step. She seized the beat and drove it straight down the pipe. His nose broke, and a spray of red gleamed in the dark firelight. He laughed through it. More. She gave it. Her aura hit the threshold and leaned over it. For one breath, Lucy was lighter, faster, heavier, slower, everything at once, trimmed to only what she needed. The black fire went matte, the silver threads snapped tight. Carl's next punch whistled past the space where her head would have been, and her return clipped his temple so clean the world blinked. Carl staggered. He hadn't staggered like that yet. He steadied, grin crooked, eyes wild. Rank X without a frame. You're going to burn yourself out. Then I'll burn out after you, she said, and blitzed. She ripped him across the field with a flurry that sounded like a row of detonations going off in a straight line. The final hit launched him skyward. Lucy chased, heel flipping over her head in a brutal axe kick that sent him crashing back down, a plume of dust and rock blooming. She landed hard, shoulders heaving, black fire coughing ash. Carl lay in the crater, chest rising and falling fast. Then his hands pressed to the dirt. The white gold veins along his body sank into the ground and came up again in a grid. Light lines snapped into a lattice over the battlefield. Thin, perfect, merciless. He stood inside his web. Playtime's over, he said, voice flat. Anchor field. Lucy's flame flared to meet it and flickered. The lattice wasn't just pressure. It was rule. Every motion she made dragged weight, every jump asked permission, every breath paid a tax. Her fire ate at it, but the lines grew back as fast as she burned them. Carl moved. He didn't blur this time. He walked. Fast. His first punch drove through her guard and hammered her sternum. Her back bowed. Breath left her in a soundless grunt. His second caught her jaw, turning her head. His third sank to the body, and the world sparked white behind her eyes. She bit down, planted her feet, and answered, a hook that made his ear ring, an elbow that split his eyebrow. He took both, stepped through them, and collided with her like a battering ram. The lattice tightened. Her flame thinned. She forced it wider, stole another breath of power from that humming edge, and paid for it. Something behind her heart burned wrong. Her knees almost dipped. She refused to let them. Carl saw the stutter. He went for it. His palm rose, 2 fingers extended, and the air between them went clean and surgical. He tapped her chest once. Everything inside her jolted. Her flame went out for a blink. That was all he needed. He hit her like a falling building. The first blow smashed across her cheekbone. The second slammed the same spot. The third hit the rib he'd cracked earlier. The fourth hammered her stomach. The fifth came from above, forearm dropping across her back and driving her to one knee. She tried to rise. The lattice dragged her down. Carl's hand hooked in her jacket and flung her high. He leaped after, knee driving into her midair and folding her around it. She crashed, skidding through dirt and stone, leaving a long, dark smear. She pushed her palms into the ground and lifted her head. Blood ran from her nose and split lip. She grinned anyway, thin, stubborn, mean. Still, not enough, she rasped. Carl's breath came hard now, chest shining with sweat and blood. He looked at her like a craftsman looks at a blade he respects. You're past SSS, he said. You really did it. He raised his hand. The lattice brightened to a blinding white. Lucy stood. She dragged the last of her flame up from wherever she kept it, packed it around her fists, and sprinted. They met in the center, her punch and his palm. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then the world did. Light stormed outward in a perfect ring. Dirt lifted and hung. Sound died, and in that quiet, the black fire started to unravel, thread by thread, the silver lines snapping as the white lattice folded over it like a closing book. Lucy's eyes widened a fraction. Carl's did not. Sleep, he said. The palm strike slid past her fist and set on her sternum. The force didn't throw her. It flattened her aura, pressed it closed, and her body followed. She hit the ground on her back. The lattice faded. The dust fell. Lucy tried to get up. Her arms shook, elbows locking, then slipping. She made it to one knee, swayed, and her eyes rolled half-closed. The black fire guttered, then winked out. She pitched forward and caught herself on trembling hands. Her breath came in short, hard pulls. She looked up at Carl through a mess of hair and blood and smiled like a dare. "Go ahead," she whispered. "Gloat." Carl stepped closer. The grin was gone. He was breathing too, deep, steady, masking how much she'd taken out of him. "No," he said. "You earned better than that." He looked down at her, at the cracked ground, at the fist marks and scorched scars and the stubbornness that wouldn't die. "You're the first one here to touch that ceiling," he added, almost to himself. "He won't be far behind." Lucy tried to spit a laugh and coughed instead. "Told you, you weren't worth him." Carl's mouth twitched. "Maybe not, but I am worth this." He turned his head, gaze cutting past the ruined field to the line of hunters watching in shocked silence. "Don't get in my way," he said, voice carrying. "I'm not done." He looked back at Lucy, the white gold veins dimming on his skin as his full release eased. "Rest," he said softly. "When you wake up, be stronger." Her eyes slipped closed despite herself. The wind moved again. The world's noise crept back in. The crackle of dead grass, the far-off crack of a failing wall, a single, shaky cheer that didn't know if it should exist. Carl rolled his shoulders, blood dripping from his chin, and turned toward the next gate forming on the horizon. "Lucian," he murmured, smiling to no one. "Hurry up. You don't have to look for me anymore." The air shifted before anyone spoke. Heads tilted up as shadows moved across the ruined field. 5 figures hung in the sky, framed by the torn clouds. They weren't just there, they carried that weight, that pull in the gut that told everyone watching the fight was about to change. Front and center, a young man stood in midair with a baby dragon coiled lazily over his shoulder, its silver scales glinting faintly in the dull light. His hair moved with the wind, eyes locked on the scene below. Lucian, his gaze dropped to Carl, then to the broken figure on the ground, his sister. For a moment, there was nothing in his face. No twitch, no breath, no sign of thought. Just a stillness that didn't belong to someone human. And then he saw it. From the edge of the field, through the hanging dust, a monster lunged at Lucy. Not one of the rabble. They'd been cleared out. This thing was fast, jagged, a blur of teeth and spikes. It cut across the space in a blink, aiming for her neck. Carl turned his head toward Lucian, maybe to warn him, maybe to test him. He didn't need to. Lucian was gone from the sky and in front of Lucy before the monster finished its second stride. The baby dragon clung tighter, its small claws gripping his shoulder as the wind of his arrival punched outward. The monster swung, claws like hooked spears. Lucian's right hand came up, fingers closing around the thing's head like it was nothing more than clay. There was no flare of power, no shout, just a slow, unyielding squeeze. Bone popped. Then the whole skull collapsed into pulp under his grip. The body went limp, collapsing in on itself before it even hit the ground. Lucian let it drop. He turned to his sister, eyes scanning her with that same unreadable calm. She was breathing, but every inhale shivered. Her body was a mess of bruises and dry blood. Her aura, once fierce, alive, was a faint echo. He knelt beside her and laid a hand on her shoulder. A glow spilled from his palm. Not the white of healing spells, not the gold of divine touch. It was a deep, vivid green, alive in a way that made the air taste fresher. The light crawled across her body, seeping into every torn muscle and fractured bone. Her breathing steadied. The purple bruises faded. The shallow cuts sealed. The tremor in her hands stopped. New skill. Skill. Verdant core restoration. XXX rank. Type. Regeneration/vitality surge. Description. Harnessing the primal wellspring awakened upon reaching X rank. The user channels life force into another, repairing physical damage at a cellular level. Removes exhaustion from the body and restores combat readiness. Cannot restore mental stamina or heal trauma of the spirit. Cooldown none. The light dimmed and Lucian's hand dropped. Lucy blinked up at him, her vision focusing. When she realized who it was, a small smile touched her lips. Not relief, not victory, just comfort. Then her eyes slipped shut again. He caught her before she could fall, resting her gently against the broken earth. "Rest," he murmured, almost too low to hear. The baby dragon on his shoulder nuzzled his neck once before turning its gaze outward, sharp little eyes tracking the rest of the field. Around them, the fight had shifted. Evelyn's duplicates were everywhere, some wielding fire, some ice, some holding shields of shimmering crystal. Every few seconds, a new ability rippled through the copies as she cycled the power she'd taken on her way here. Each clone hit with different force, different style. One snapped a monster's neck with bare hands. Another split one in half with a blade made of hardened light. The original Evelyn moved between them, her focus locked on the bigger threats. Silas was pure momentum, his enhanced body blurring between impacts. He tore through monsters with nothing but speed and weight, each strike folding an enemy in on itself. A sweeping backhand broke a beast's spine. A knee crushed another's ribcage before it even roared. His coat was shredded at the sleeves, showing the hard muscle and glowing nodes under his skin as they pulsed brighter with each kill. Vin stood still by comparison, but the world around her moved like it answered to her alone. Lines of magic coiled in the air, weaving between her fingers before snapping outward into jagged, twisting spears of pure mana. They shot through enemies in perfect arcs, bending midair to strike again from behind. Every gesture reshaped the field. Walls of magic rose to block, then exploded outward in controlled bursts. Rhea was calm in the middle of it, her eyes tracking every moving piece. Numbers and symbols flickered faintly in the air around her as she calculated. Her telepathic reach kept the team flowing together. Warnings flashed into minds before danger arrived, orders slotted into gaps before anyone had to think. At the same time, she was tracing the lines of energy that fed the gate, pulling apart its structure piece by piece. The monsters were still coming, but they were dwindling fast. The smaller ones were shredded by Evelyn's numbers. The faster ones were intercepted by Silas. The heavy ones didn't get past Finn's magic walls. Lucian rose to his feet, eyes lifting toward the gate in the distance. It pulsed faintly, the surface rippling as more shadows moved just beyond. His gaze sharpened. Carl, still standing a few meters away, studied him openly. His white gold veins had faded almost completely, but his posture was loose, unreadable. "You took your time," Carl said, voice low. Lucian glanced at him briefly, then back to the gate. "Wasn't here for you." Carl's mouth quirked, not quite a smile. "You'll change your mind." Lucian didn't answer. A roar cut across the battlefield, a deeper, heavier tone than the others. From the gate's edge, something massive began to push through, its silhouette taller than the buildings at the far end of the street. Rhea's voice slid into his head without warning, clear and sharp. "That one's not supposed to be here." The gate's pulling from a deeper layer. Vin's magic flared brighter. "Then we close it now." "Not yet," Evelyn called, wiping blood from her cheek as another duplicate shattered in smoke beside her. Lucian might want to meet it. He didn't move. The massive creature stepped fully through. A hulking, plated thing with arms long enough to scrape the ground, a mouth splitting far too wide across its face. Energy bled off its hide in waves. Lucian turned his head toward Rhea. "Keep working on the seal." Then he started walking toward it. Each step was slow, deliberate. The ground didn't crack, the air didn't shake, but there was a tightening, like everything within reach was being drawn into his pace. The monster roared again and charged. It covered the distance in less than a second, its bulk tearing trenches in the street as it swung a fist the size of a car. Lucian raised his hand. The punch stopped. Not slowed, stopped, the knuckles hanging inches from his face. His fingers closed around them, and for a heartbeat the entire battlefield went quiet, as if the sound had been cut away. Then he twisted. The arm came off at the shoulder in a single, clean tear. The monster screamed, stumbling back, black ichor spraying in a wide arc. Lucian didn't give it space. He was on its chest before it fell, his palm pressing against the armor-like plates. A deep, green light flared under his hand, the same light he'd used on Lucy, but sharper, hungrier. The plates cracked. Then the cracks spread, and the entire front of the creature burst outward in a rain of shards and gore. Lucian stepped back, letting the corpse fall. He didn't look at Carl, but he didn't have to. The message was there. Carl tilted his head, studying him like he'd just found a puzzle worth keeping. Above them, the gate shuddered as Rhea's calculations reached their end. Energy threads snapped one by one, the surface of the portal rippling harder, slower, until it began to collapse inward. The baby dragon on Lucian's shoulder gave a short, sharp trill. The wind shifted again. The sky lightened just a little. And somewhere in the quiet, Carl's voice carried, "Guess you made it in time after all." Lucian didn't answer. He was already kneeling beside his sister again. When the gate closed for good, the last of the monsters dead, the field finally went still. But the way Carl and Lucian stood in the same place, neither looking away, that was its own kind of storm. Carl's eyes narrowed as he took in the faint shimmer that still clung to Lucian's frame. Not an aura, not killing intent. Something deeper, like the air itself had agreed to move around him differently. He tilted his head, a slow grin forming. "Your X-rank." The words cut through the stillness like a blade. Aaron, standing further back with his arms crossed, stiffened. His jaw tightened as his gaze locked on Lucian. "Impossible," he muttered under his breath, but there was a sharp edge to it, an unease he didn't bother to hide. No human gets there without no. This shouldn't be happening. Athena, who had been calmly overseeing the cleanup, turned fully toward them. Her composure cracked for a fraction of a second, just enough for her eyes to widen. "X-rank," she said quietly, almost to herself. Her mind was already running, searching through everything she knew, every legend, every classified report. Carl's smile didn't fade. He could feel it now, not just see it, the weight of Lucian's presence pressing back at his own. "It's rare," he said conversationally, though his eyes never left Lucian's. "Even more rare than me. And you," his grin widened, almost playful, "you don't even look tired. Guess you've been hiding it." Lucian said nothing. Carl's grin twitched. "Not going to confirm it? Fine. I'll pull the truth out of you." Lucian stepped forward, was silent. The baby dragon's tail tightened around his shoulder, silver eyes narrowing as its tiny claws dug in, not in fear, but in readiness. Carl's full release wasn't active, but the tension between them hit like a shift in gravity. The onlookers, Aaron, Athena, Garos, even Evelyn and the others, felt the drop in the air pressure, the prickling on their skin. It wasn't a warm-up. It was two storms sliding into the same path. Carl moved first, foot scraping the dirt as his fist came in low, arcing up toward Lucian's ribs with a white gold trail. Lucian stepped into it. Their auras collided with the hit, a pressure wave kicking up a ring of dust and gravel. Lucian's forearm blocked the strike, and his other hand shot forward, palm open, catching Carl by the jaw. No hesitation. He shoved, sending Carl sliding backward a dozen meters before his boots caught. Carl chuckled, flexing his jaw once. "Good. Let's see if he can keep that up." He blurred, not the kind of speed that left a trail. Carl's was clean, sharp, as if the space between him and his target had been erased. His elbow came down toward Lucian's temple. Lucian's hand came up, catching it mid-arc, and his heel snapped into Carl's side. The impact made Carl's body fold for half a second, but he twisted with it, grabbing Lucian's leg and hurling him overhead. Lucian flipped midair, landed light, and was already moving again, closing the gap with a burst that cracked the ground under his takeoff. His right hand drew back, green light flaring faintly along the veins. Carl crossed his arms to block. Impact. The strike didn't just push, it caved the ground beneath Carl's feet. Cracks spidered outward in every direction. The green energy surged past the block, making Carl's aura ripple unevenly for the first time. Carl's grin turned sharper. "So you can cut through." He swept a hand outward, white gold veins flashing brighter. The air warped, and suddenly Lucian's footing sank, gravity bending sideways. Carl's follow-up kick drove toward Lucian's chest, but Lucian rolled with it, catching Carl's leg mid-swing and twisting hard. Carl's balance broke for half a breath. Lucian used it, shoulder driving into Carl's midsection, sending him skidding backward, dust rising in thick clouds. Aaron's glare darkened as he watched. He's matching Carl blow for blow. Athena's gaze was sharper, analyzing every exchange. No, she murmured, Carl's testing him. And Lucian, he's not showing everything yet. Garros folded his arms, eyes narrowing. Then what happens when they both stop holding back? Carl wiped blood from the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand. All right, let's stop wasting time. He slammed his heel into the ground. White gold lines exploded outward from him in a grid, climbing into the air, a shimmering lattice like before, but denser, edges sharper. Anchor field. The pressure locked down instantly. Lucian's movements dragged in the air, every shift of his body tugged at by invisible chains. His green aura sharpened, pushing against it, but the weight was there. Carl stepped in fast. Jab, cross, hook, each one carrying a spike of compressed force. Lucian blocked high, ducked under the hook, and drove an uppercut toward Carl's chin. The anchor field caught the motion, slowing it just enough for Carl to twist aside. His knee came up, slamming into Lucian's ribs with a thud that echoed. Lucian didn't grunt. He caught Carl's leg mid-strike and shoved him back with a pulse of green energy that cracked the lattice in a dozen places. Carl landed, eyes flashing. That field isn't breaking you? Good. Lucian didn't speak. He just moved. One blink he was there, the next he was gone, a shockwave marking where he'd stood. He reappeared right in Carl's space, hand snapping forward with an open palm strike that didn't glow, didn't spark, just hit. The air folded inward with the impact. Carl's body jerked back, as if something had shoved the world itself under his feet. The anchor field fractured completely, shards of white gold light falling like glass. Carl straightened slowly, rolling his shoulders. That's more like it. Then they collided. No more careful footwork, no more measuring strikes. It was raw, close, brutal. Forearms smashing, elbows clipping jaws, knees hammering ribs. Carl's strength crashed like waves. Lucian's precision cut like wire. The ground beneath them warped from the repeated impacts, each blow tearing another crater into the field. A straight from Lucian rocked Carl's head back. Carl answered with a back fist that caught Lucian across the temple. They locked grips for a second, muscles bunching, and then broke apart. Carl throwing a low sweep, Lucian jumping clear, flipping into a downward kick that Carl barely sidestepped. The baby dragon clung tight, tail lashing in excitement. Aaron's scowl deepened as the dust swirled around them. He's not supposed to exist, he muttered. A human X rank, it upends everything. Athena didn't look away from the fight. It changes the balance. Garros just watched, silent now, because neither of them could deny it. Lucian wasn't being pushed back. Carl feinted high and slammed a punch into Lucian's side. Lucian twisted, catching Carl's wrist, and spun him off balance into a short hook to the jaw. Carl staggered half a step, then drove forward again, grinning through the blood. You really are fun, Carl said between blows. Let's see how long you last. Lucian's eyes narrowed a fraction. Try me. They clashed again. No sound but the crash of strikes and the sharp hiss of the air tearing around them. And this time, neither one gave ground.